And so that's why mine is stuck for so long, because my fans keep it alive. Not that I try not to talk about it at all, but every interview I got to bring it up again. Every newspaper article or magazine article on me, they bring it up again. So it's always like this ongoing thing where I'm trying to kill it, but the fans want to keep it alive, so it stays alive. That's how it goes.
All right, so it still continues. Still the drumbeat rolls on. And now Moshe would like to ask you a couple questions. Go ahead, Moshe.
Yeah, as you know, we're broadcasting live out of Jerusalem, Israel. A few years ago, you had the opportunity to fight here in Tel Aviv. Can you tell us what that was like, fighting in Israel?
Dude, it was great. Being this far away from Israel, you get only, watch out. You have to worry about the East Bank and West Bank. You got to worry about bombs going off everywhere. It's really, it's a war zone. Like, why would you want to go over there? And we got over there, and I had the absolute best time. Like, it was such a good time that I wanted Israel Fighting Championships to throw another fight just so I could bring my family over. So I wanted to bring my daughter and my sons over for them to go see. Because remember, we got to spend a day and a half in Jerusalem, and in the surrounding area. We went up to the we toured all the great sites of Israel that you possibly can. And in America, you just hear about them in books, and you read about them in books, and you get them taught to you when you're in class. But you don't actually get to see it. So we actually got to go down and see it. And I want to go back again to have my family go to it. I had a great time in Israel. I'm going to go back. If ever offered the chance again to go over there, I would absolutely go over. 100%, I would go over.
Well, that's great to hear. What was the fight like? How were the fans? I know there's a big base of MMA fans here in Israel, but we don't get to see fights that often, rarely ever see any live. So what was it like having them actually there?
Well, first of all, if your government and the UAE government would get their stuff together, you guys would be able to go over to UAE and see now the UFC has gone over there and be able to watch the fights live, because it's not that far away for most citizens to get over there. That's a governmental issue. That's political. It's got nothing to do with the fans. The fans actually, probably, if you take Japanese fans, is the most knowledgeable, because Japan comes from a base where their number one sport is sumo, their second sport is judo, and their number one pastime is karate. So it's like, it's not baseball like it is in America, or basketball or football. It's all combative sports. So Japanese citizens really understand MMA. Taking the Japanese fans as the number one fans, I would probably say the Israeli fans are number 3 behind the Brazilian fans as far as knowledge goes. And just as passionate as the Brazilian fans, but a lot more understanding of the stand-up game as well. Where the Brazilian fans love the ground game. The Japanese fans understand the ground game, but they don't cheer very loud. The Israeli fans cheered extremely loud, but also understood the striking and the nuances of striking, as well as the ground game. So it was great to fight in front of all those fans, because even when there was no action going on, they still understood why there was no action going on. And they were patient enough to wait. They didn't start booing and start catcalling. They knew that, hey, action's going to start in a second. Just give them a minute to get through this position change, and then they would sit there and wait for the change to happen.
I now want to ask more specifically about your career, because you fought some pretty famous fighters. Matt Hughes, also Jason Mayhem Miller, was famous for the Bully Beatdown show. You're able to TKO him. And 2006, any particular fighter that kind of stands out a little more than some of the others?
Probably the Matt Hughes 2 fight, just because that's the one that everyone talks about. I think it's either number 2 or number 3 of best fight of all time in UFC history. It's still Dana White's favorite fight. It's Lorenzo Fertitta's favorite fight. It's just one of those deals where, I'm on the losing end of their favorite fight, but it was such a comeback fight and such a big deal for him to win after me, beating him up so bad that it's the one, like I said, it's like my nickname. Like, everyone always brings that fight up. So it's probably the one that's always in my head more. It's probably the one that's always around more. So that's the one I have to deal with more than any of the other fights. But that fight, obviously, is the biggest one. The Verissimo Ceruto fight I had in UFC 50 was a huge fight. Fighting Dennis Hallman in UFC 48 was a huge fight. And, of course, the Jason Miller fight, because I had retired for 9 months, and I was weighing about 230 pounds on a 5'10" frame is fat. I was basically a bowling ball. And when I got the call from TJ Thompson in Hawaii, hey, do you want to fight Jason Miller at 185? in 6 weeks. I was like, sure, I'll take the fight. And I went and stepped on the scale. I was like, geez, I'm so far out, I'm not able to make weight. So for that one, that was, for me, was like one of the biggest fights because it took so much energy for me to make weight, for me to get my weight down there, and to be under control and still be able to win a title over at Icon was huge. So those are probably my biggest fights out of my career.
And George St. Pierre, I mean, he is one of the best pound for pound. Really fun to watch. Obviously, I know that fight didn't go the way you wanted to, but what was it like to step in the cage and go against St. Pierre?
I couldn't tell you, really, because I had my right ankle. I had torn all the ligaments in my right ankle. I had one partial ligament left holding my ankle together. Everything else was gone. So when I shot the double leg in the middle of the first round and he ran over me, it wasn't the fact that he had such good defense wrestling-wise. When I shot, I blew my ankle out. Like, my ankle completely torn. I felt like someone put a hot poker in my Achilles. And so I just got run over, and I had to give him my back because I couldn't do anything else. So I had to get him to choke me out because he already hit me. He elbowed me twice and cut me open. I was like, I'm not going to sit here and take eye damage. So I was rolled over and said, here, take the choke, and gave him the choke so I could get out of the fight. So really, I couldn't tell you how, what it was like to fight him because I really didn't fight him.
Right.
So that's the only fight that I should have probably called Joe Silva and said, look, I'm too hurt, I can't fight. Went and had surgery and came back another day. But it's just, that's one of the things you live and learn as a fighter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, moving on later to your career, I believe it was either Bama 6. I think you were training with a left-handed striking coach, and you had said that made a big difference in terms of the way that you fought. Do you believe that maybe something like that earlier in your career might have changed it drastically?
Yeah, actually, Tim Lane, as you were talking about, he was actually with me in Israel when I fought. He cornered me in Israel. And, yeah, that's the difference is that a lot of guys try to adapt and change their style. Well, and we do this with wrestlers all the time. A wrestler traditionally has his right leg led forward. And then when he comes into MMA, all these boxing coaches want to make them switch their stance and go left leg led forward, which makes him a right-handed boxer. When you're right leg led forward in wrestling, you're a right-handed wrestler, but you're a left-handed boxer. For me, I was a right-handed wrestler, and I'm a left-handed boxer, so I'd have to change my stance. We started analyzing these guys that spend 30 years as a wrestler. Then all of a sudden they have to switch their feet to go ahead and be boxers. It doesn't work. It doesn't work out that way. So if I had guys trying to show me how to be a left-handed boxer from the right-handed stance. These were guys who were right-handed, show me, if I was fighting a left-handed guy, this is what I would do. So here, do this. And it didn't work out as well as having a left-handed guy that actually knew what he was doing and knew from the left-handed mindset and spent those years in the left side of how to fight. That made a huge difference. And so I wish I had Tim early in my career. I'm pretty much done. I'm 40 years old. There's not much fight left. And this guy, came in and was like, look, here's this, and this. I was like, wow, if I had known this stuff, 10 years ago, it completely would have changed my game. I mean, completely.
Right. How did you meet up with Tim Lane?
He came up from New York, came to Extreme Couture, and started teaching kickboxing at Extreme Couture Academy in Las Vegas. And then I just said, hey, I thought he was left-handed, started talking to him a little bit, and then we started training together a little bit, and we clicked and stuck together. That was it.
Sounds good. What do you think of John Jones these days? He seems to be unstoppable, incredible fighter. Is anybody ever going to be able to take him down?
Well, I thought that Rashad Evans had the best shot because he trained with him and kind of knew everything that he was doing. And then, Henderson has a style that battles very well against John Jones. But remember, Henderson is 42 and John Jones is 24. And it's a battle of younger versus old. And it's going to be a battle of how hard these guys tend to want to rock and tend to want to push. Right now, I don't see anybody stopping him, but it will not surprise me if Henderson beats him. But I don't see it happening, to be honest with you. It's just one of those deals where I think that right now, John Jones is just too far ahead in advance. As long as he trains right and doesn't put bad things into his own head, like with his DWI he just got and being caught with other girls or on his fiance and like this whole thing, then he'll be okay. But if he lets that stuff affect him, he's gonna have a problem. But I think he'll be able to get through it pretty well.
All right, Frank, we got to break down now the big Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen fight. I'm very excited about this fight. It's scheduled for July, at least at this point. And Chael Sonnen is not exactly Muhammad Ali. I mean, he has 11 losses, but he trash talks like Ali, probably more than anyone in MMA. Really entertaining guy, good funny stuff. First of all, let's start with the trash talk. And how much of that is just simply belief, or how much of that is just to kind of pump him up and get himself ready to try to beat Anderson?
That's Chael. Like, you're not getting. That's the thing. That's the thing about trash talk. Frank Mir and I talked about this before. The problem with trash talk today is that sometimes the UFC or Titan Fighting Championships or Legacy or whoever comes in and goes, "Hey, look, we need you to hype this fight up a little bit more." So these guys have to force trash talk. Frank Mir comes off when he talks. He comes off very intelligent. It doesn't come off as trash talking. It comes off very matter of factual because that's just the way Frank is. He's very smart, and what he says, he fully believes. When JDS, Junior Santos, trying to trash talk, it seemed very forced and very weird because it's not his style. But he was trying to hype the fight up. When Chael Sonnen does it, that is Chael. The way he is talking to you is the way he talks to everybody. He's not doing anything out of the norm, out of the ordinary. He is being Chael Sonnen. So that is exactly how he is. So it's not trash talk. That's really what he believes.
Okay.
When he tells you, I beat Anderson Silva, I'm the real champ because I beat him up for 4.5 rounds. He beats me up for a half of one round. I beat him up for 4 rounds. I win the fight. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, everybody else on the entire planet knows that I won that fight. So I'm the champ. Why has he still got the belt? Like, he believes that. That is exactly what he believes, exactly what he understands. So it's not a forced trash talk, which is why it works so well, which is the same thing why Muhammad Ali works so well, because it wasn't forced. It is exactly what he believed and exactly what he wanted to say, and so it's very easy to do.
Now, let's go to back to Anderson Silva. One of the best UFC fighters of all time, if not the best. He's undefeated in UFC. He even in the fight against Sonnen, he was losing, as you mentioned, figured out a way to win. And how much longer is he going to go before someone beats him? I mean, it looks like Chael will obviously have a chance in July, but if Anderson can beat him, I mean, is anyone else can take down Anderson Silva?
Anderson Silva is going to take down Anderson Silva. Chael Sonnen has the best shot because he has the formula to beat Anderson. He kind of knows what he's going to do and how to go about beating him. But if he doesn't beat him on July 7th, then, and I think this is the reason why that Anderson got so mad that it wasn't in Brazil, and the reason why the fight moved to Las Vegas, and Anderson flipped out and was really upset because I really think that Anderson was going to win that fight and then retire and wanted to retire in his home country. He'd be like, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I've done enough. I've got enough. I've got 5 kids. I think it's 5 kids. I got 5 kids. I want to stay home, take care of my kids, and that's what I'm going to do. He's going to retire out. That's my gut feeling. That's my guess. I haven't heard anything about it. That's just what I'm guessing. After this fight with Chael Sonnen, if Chael doesn't beat him, we're in a long reign. Like, basically, Anderson has to pick. He can basically pick who he wants to fight and when he wants to fight and beat him up, and then it's just going to be Anderson beating Anderson. It's going to be that game of him walking out and walking away. No one else can really do it.
Chael has some great trash talk saying that Anderson is pretending not to have the ability to speak English. Talk about the YouTube videos, called Anderson a bully. How much of that do you agree with? Is Anderson Silva a bully, and is he pretending not to be able to speak English to stay away from the press and some of the fans?
Well, it's like anybody else. I did an interview a little bit ago that Fedor Emelianenko speaks English. I've hung around Lyoto Machida. He speaks English. I've hung around Anderson Silva. He speaks English. Now, is it good English for interviews? Does he fumble? Is it probably not the best thing to do right after a fight when your heart rate is pumping and your blood pressure is going and you're having a hard time concentrating and all that? Is it tough? Yeah, that's tough. Probably then use a translator. So is Chael Sonnen correct in that sense of, Anderson speaks English? Yes, he's correct in that sense. Is he doing it so he doesn't have to talk to the press? No, he's not doing it so he doesn't have to talk to the press because he talks to tons of Brazilian press. And there's tons of American fans that speak Portuguese that translate it into English. So we get what he's saying anyway. It's not that. It's just it's smarter if you speak 2 languages to make sure that you're really fluent in the second language before you move on. You don't want anybody going in and saying the wrong thing and saying it the wrong way and messing things up. So that's what they're trying to do.
And a few years ago, of course, there was that fight where Anderson Silva was really kind of taunting his opponents, didn't really finish him out, and the fans were booing. Dana White refused to put the belt on Anderson Silva. So Anderson, his attitude, let's talk a little bit about that. Does he want to really entertain the fans in July, put on a show for them, or is he just looking for the W and, like you said, potentially retire or just kind of call his shots afterwards?
I think you're talking about the Damian Maia fight, where it was really weird because Damon just wanted to sit on his butt and scoot around, and Anderson wanted to stand up and punch him. Now, Damon's a incredible multi-time world champion. Anderson's smart. He down the ground with him and get submitted, so he forced him to stand up. It was a very lackluster fight. That was stylistically how that fight was going to go. With a fight like Chael's good on the ground, but he's going to do a lot of takedowns. It makes for a more exciting fight. It's not that Anderson didn't want to finish. It wasn't that Anderson didn't want to engage in the fight. It was just the way the styles went that he couldn't engage and couldn't make that thing happen. So, with that being said, I think this next fight, July 7th, is going to be an incredible fight. There's going to be fireworks flying off the whole time. I think Anderson's going to come out from the very beginning and throw a barrage of punches and kicks to keep Chael off. And to be honest with you, if Chael gets caught, the fight's going to be over in the first round. Chael's got to do a really good job of weathering the first round storm to get Anderson to settle down a little bit and then get back into it and start beating him up. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this fight goes. I think Anderson, his style, just the way he fights, is very good. All these great fights in the season, all these these great fights, these great highlight reels, they're all from guys that stand there in his pocket and try to engage with him and throw a bunch of punches at him. He moves his head and he rolls his shoulders, and you can't hit him as he gets out of the way. But when you're trying to do jiu-jitsu against him and you're sitting on your butt and you're scooting around, well, he can't do anything because he's so tall. He can't punch down at you. He doesn't want to get caught and getting taken down. So that was a smart fight, and there's a smart way to approach that fight. So I think this fight on July 7th with Chael is going to be an amazing fight.
All right, and at the end of the day, do you like Anderson to get the W, or you think an upset happens?
I think an upset happens. So I'm really biased. So, and then Chael and I have the same grappling coach, Neil Mellison, who's also ready for the grappling coach. So I'm going to stick with Chael. But, believe me, if he loses, I'm not going to be surprised. It's not like, oh, no, he's definitely going to win. He's definitely going to win. This fight really is a toss-up. It's going to be really, really close. But I do see the upset happen with Chael.
Okay, great stuff. Frank, it was great to have you on. We appreciate the time. Before we let you go, please give a plug to all our listeners in Israel so they can listen to you and learn more about the mixed martial arts.
Well, I'll tell you what, the best way to get a hold of me, if you have an iPhone or a Android application or Android OS phone, is download my app. Because in my app, there's a calendar. And in my calendar, I put up all my stuff that I'm doing. And there's a lot of stuff you can catch me doing broadcast-wise that you can pick up on the internet. So it's just by your computer at the right time, you can pick it up. It's just the Frank Trigg MMA app. If you search for it in Android or in the iTunes store. If you don't have either one of those, or if you want to as well, I'm always on Twitter. Just follow me. It's at Frank Trigg, one word, no space, and it's the same on Facebook. And my fan page, believe it or not, on Facebook is Frank Twinkletoes Trigg. So it's easy to find me. I'm basically on every social network out there, so it's easy to find me, and I'm pretty active on all of them. So,
all right. So at the end of the day, the nickname still sticks even on Twitter. So good stuff there, Frank. We really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, and we got to do it again soon.
You got it, guys. Thanks, man. I'd love to come back and talk to you guys again.
All right, Frank. Be well. All right. That was Frank Trigg, who is an MMA expert, former MMA fighter, fought some of the best in the business.
Right, very interesting interview there.
And now covers the sport, and you heard his take. He actually likes an upset in the big Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva fight. And the key really for Sonnen is going to be to get through that first round of Anderson Silva's barrage. And Silva really could do everything. Like I mentioned, undefeated in UFC. Not his entire mixed martial arts career, obviously, but UFC undefeated. Dana White has said he's the pound the best. Like a great champion, figures out a way to win, even when it looked like he was losing, as he was losing with the Sonnen fight, losing about 4.5 rounds. Now, there was some controversy after the fight as Chael Sonnen tested positive for higher testosterone, but it looked like that he may have done it or may have had permission to take what he needs to take. Chael Sonnen has a certain condition that he's allowed to take certain testosterone. I don't know I'm not a doctor, so I know exactly how it works. But in any case, fight's on July, and it's going to be great, great stuff. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and we're looking forward to it. We're going to take a break. On the other side, Zach Lee Rigg, no relation. You're listening to Lewis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. I want to remind anyone, by the way, to check out the store by clicking on the store tab of IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and
Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music, and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back on Lewis Live here. We're going to be dialing up a great soccer guest from Goal.com, which seems to be our new best friend, and we're very excited to have him on. But before we do that, I wanted to again talk about the game last night. It was a very crazy game in Oklahoma City. For a long time, the Spurs just looked they were going to dominate. Steven Jackson was making threes. Timmy D was looking young. Ginobili was doing whatever he wanted. But second half came, and the Thunder started to completely roll. There's no other way to put it. And this team seems destined for greatness at this point. You never know what's going to happen, though, because tonight, of course, is Game 6 for Heat Celtics. I'm going to be rooting for the Heat. I want the Heat to be playing the Thunder in the finals now, and we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, enough about basketball. We'll get back to that later. Now we are going to be calling our friend Zach Lee Rigg, who was based in Malaysia and China and other great Asian countries. But we're going to be dialing him up right now. to talk some Euro, English Premier League, some stuff going on in China. Moshe's going to get into that. Right, Moshe?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to call him up right now. And good stuff with Zach. We've had a lot of people on. Hi, am I speaking with Zach Lee Rigg?
Hello, yes you are.
Hi, Zach. You're on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys today?
We're doing great. We've I was just telling our listeners we've started to have a lot of great people on from Goal.com, and it's our pleasure to have another person on. Yesterday we had Alex Labido. Pardon if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. Maybe you can help me out with that.
I've never actually met him. I assumed it was Labadoo, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so we're both not sure, so that's good news. Let's say it's Labadoo. That sounds about right. So we had him on yesterday, and that was a lot of fun, breaking down a lot of American soccer, because I believe he's the deputy editor of the USA section. So that was fun. So today I was hoping we could talk a little bit more about the Euro, about the past season and Italy and Germany and especially England. That's been an amazing campaign there. But I want to start off with the Euro, which, thank God, is starting tomorrow. I've been counting down the days now for the past, pretty much since last summer. I want to start off and ask you who your favorite is. And before you tell me, I want to let you know that people now from ESPN, Fox, and Goal.com have all picked Germany. So are you going to shock me and pick another team?
I guess I'm going to have to be boring. I just sent in my predictions, and I went for Germany.
Okay.
I think most people agree there's a top three of Holland, Germany, and Spain. And just of those three, I think Germany has the deepest team and can withstand a couple injuries and a couple dips in form.
Right, and I mean, one of the biggest concerns, you look at the teams you just mentioned in Holland, it's the defense. Not the best defense in the world, not necessarily the worst, but just not a very strong D. And then in Spain, Puyol also in the defense and Villa up front, two guys that will definitely be missing. But why do you think this Germany team has all the right, I guess, positions and ingredients to finally win the Euro?
This has been an interesting project, and it's been a good Germany team for a surprisingly long time because they keep injecting fresh players. So they still have the same. They could essentially start at the same starting lineup that got to the semifinals of last World Cup, but they also have new guys like Guautier and Royce,
right?
Who they can just bring in off the bench and who I think are phenomenal players.
And I wanted to ask you. Go ahead, Zach, if you had more to say.
They're also just really, really fun to watch, and I think that probably plays into pre-tournament expectations.
Yeah, and in fact, Zach, they just played our Israel national team, and I wouldn't say they destroyed us because the final score of the match was 2-0, but they outplayed us in every single aspect of the game, and Gomez had an amazing goal. And that's going to lead me to my next question. It appears right now in the German media and pretty much what everyone's saying in Germany is that Gomez will come off the bench, and Klose, who's one of the best, you really could argue one of the best goal scorers in international play in our era in the last 20, 30 years, along with Ronaldo, will be starting in front of him. Do you like that call?
I do. I really do. Gomez is a wonderful, wonderful goal scorer. He's not the best footballer. Klose brings a lot of different things that Gomez can't. He links up the ball well. He makes better runs. He's just a little bit more active, and I think he makes the team better rather than he doesn't have the gaudy stats of Gomez. The other interesting thing is both Polish-born players, Podolski and Klose, always perform really, really well for the national team, even when they aren't performing on the club level.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do back in the country of their birth, and if they can continue that run. Neither had phenomenal years. They were both very solid this year, but I think they always perform way better when in the German national team kit.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'm hoping that Podolski doesn't do what you just said, and he can play well for Arsenal next year because I know we're going to need him. But Klose, I believe, was in Italy this year. Lazio, I don't remember.
He was with Lazio.
Right, he was with Lazio this year. But when he had those couple amazing tournaments, he was actually, from what I recall, on the bench of Bayern and wasn't getting a lot of playing time. Then, as you mentioned, suddenly gets called to the national team and just is an amazing goal scorer. So I kind of want to ask you, why do you think that is? I mean, why? I mean, obviously in the international game, there's so many more people watching, so much pressure. You know, especially for Germany, which is always a favorite in every tournament they go into. Why is he able to be so successful in that international game?
I'm not really sure. Form is a tricky thing, especially for attackers.
Right.
I mean, a lot of it could be confidence. A lot of it could just be the system that they play in. But I think I'm just guessing here. But when you have Klose, he's a little bit older by now, he doesn't have maybe the stamina to play an entire season through. But this season as well, he picked up a bunch of injuries towards the end, and he wasn't much of a factor towards the last few months. But when you just need to turn it on for 6 games, he's always been in form in those cluster of games that he's needed to.
Right. No, that's true. And another thing that's interesting about this Germany team is a lot of these players are from Bayern Munich, and of course, Bayern Munich had that devastating loss to Chelsea. And this is my opinion. I was hoping I could get your thoughts. I think that these guys have a lot of, what's the term in English? They have something on their shoulder.
Chip on their
shoulder.
Chip on their shoulder, because they got so close. They really outplayed Chelsea until about the last 10 minutes. It was funny. I was watching ESPN Soccer Net the other night when, like a replay, when Tommy Smith said that Drogba would score the last goal and then he'd make a goal in PKs. That was kind of weird that Tommy was able to predict that. But anyway, I think a lot of these guys have a lot to prove. And this is the best way to do it. I mean, May 19th, they lose the Champions League, and then whenever the final is, first week of July, they can win a Euro. So do you agree with me that they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder?
I think they might. Germany has also done very well the last 3 tournaments and not won.
Right.
So I think that might play it into as well. What's interesting to me is Borussia Dortmund has been phenomenal for 2 years.
Absolutely.
But Jens Lehmann just pointed out that Joachim Low doesn't seem to trust those players quite as much. They don't quite fit into his system, or they just can't replicate that form on the national team as readily. So the identity of this Germany team is very much based in Bayern Munich. And I don't know how much that will play in the psychology, but I know at least Arjen Robben has come out and said that he's sick of being branded a loser, and he wants to win a final. And so I imagine his Bayern teammates feel very similarly. That Champions League loss is very fresh and was very raw.
Right, and of course, Robben playing for the Netherlands national team, which also is another team that's gone pretty close the last few years, playing in the finals in the World Cup. And I want to go back to the Netherlands team and talk about the concerns in the defense, because it's an issue, and it's something that people are very aware of and might try and exploit, or obviously they will try and exploit. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Very recently, Simon Kjaer, who plays with Stecklenburg on Roma, he said that Stecklenburg is carrying a left shoulder injury, and he wants his teammates to shoot as far that way as possible in the hopes that he can aggravate it. I don't know how much that's actually going to work, but I think it does point out that besides Stecklenburg, this back line of the Netherlands is not very strong. I think yesterday Cruyff suggested playing Dirk Kuyt as a right back, because they have Van der Wiel, who's a solid defender, but beyond him, there's not much to this defense, at least in names, and usually that comes back to bite you at some point during the tournament. Defense wins trophies.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at that Italian team with Cannavaro back in the day, who's believe he's playing in somewhere in the Middle East nearby us right now, or he was last year. But now, Zach, it's pretty cool when I think you told me you were in China for a while and you're in Malaysia for a while. So my co-host here wants to talk about kind of the growing game in China, what's been going on there. China just played Spain. So he's going to talk to you about that for the next 5 to 8 minutes, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little about the Premier League this year, because it's been such an amazing season from top to bottom, really. If you're a pure football fan, you had to love what happened in the Premier League. So here's my co-host, and he's going to start off with some China talk.
All right. Nicholas Anelka went to China, and he's been having a season there as coach and as a player. How's that been going for him?
Not that great. He has, I believe, 2 goals in 9 games now. Mm-hmm. And every time I see him, he's yelling at teammates and he's frustrated because the passes just aren't coming. And honestly, the level of play is not that great. So he's been frustrated on the field, and he was also just replaced as head coach by the former Argentine national coach. I forget his name at the moment. But Anelka was so angry that he got replaced. He went out and he did an exclusive interview with a local media outlet, and he said he might have to think about retiring, that there was no communication in the club, that he felt that he was stranded and couldn't do his job. Now, he later took back all those comments and apologized, but I don't think that he was happy that someone was brought in over his head, and honestly, his team is not doing that well. So I can see why they might have brought in someone else.
Right. Is there any chance that any other players maybe will join him over there? I know there have been some rumors flying around, different players transferring into China. What's the deal with that?
There's a lot of chance. There's a lot of money in China.
Right.
We just saw Lucas Barrios join Marcelo Lippi in Guangzhou, mm-hmm. and I think that Shanghai is privately confident that they can lure Drogba over to China as well.
Right.
And we're going to see continuing lessening. Currently, they can only have 4 players from outside of Asia on the roster, and I think that's gonna change in the near future. They're going to allow more, and with the economy there, we're going to see more big name players move to Asia. Money talks.
Right. Do you think Drogba is going to make that move over there? Obviously, it's a lot of money, but maybe somebody like Drogba wants to win in the Champions League. Is he going to transfer over to China?
I think it's likely. The people I talked to in Shanghai, everything they were hearing from the club was that it was progressing well. I thought he would have signed by now, so I'm not sure what the holdup is or if he's still looking at options. But if I had to guess right now, I would guess he's going to China.
Do you think he'll be able to convince any of his former teammates or countrymen to join him over there, maybe to create like a top caliber club over there?
Shanghai Szechuan is not very well run. The owner's a bit of an egomaniac. He recently played himself as a striker next to Anelka in a friendly. He's 40-something. He made his money in video games. And he also played for about 5 minutes in a friendly against Liverpool. So I'm not convinced that Shanghai is going to be that club. The more interesting project to me is Guangzhou, which just brought in Marcelo Lippi and has Lucas Barrios and a cluster of very good South Americans who are quite young. I don't know if Drogba is going to be able to convince many other players to come over immediately. But I think if Anelka and Drogba do well, then we're going to see more. As they talk to their friends, it's going to become more of an option.
Will the Chinese Premier League become one of the big names like the Italian League and the Premier League in England, etc.?
It's unclear. There's a lot of growth to happen before that happens. I think more likely is that we'll see Russia start to do well first, and as maybe the spread of play moves east, China could become a player. Currently, I don't see the infrastructure in the soccer world there yet to become a major league in the world stage. I think for now it'll be mostly older players.
Okay. I've also heard rumors about Drogba maybe heading over to PSG. Do those rumors have much behind them? Are they going to be in competition with Shanghai? Do they have any chance?
PSG is linked with just about any forward in the world, and they can't fit them all in the lineup.
Right.
I think Carlo Ancelotti recently said that he doesn't want Ibrahimovic because they want younger players, and Ibrahimovic is about 4 or 5 years younger than Drogba. So I don't think that Drogba is a realistic option for them. It's not that they couldn't afford him. I just think that they're going to finance someone else.
Okay, moving back to China, the domestic players, they just had a friendly with Spain, and it was a pretty close match. How are the Chinese players stacking up against European competition?
China is still trying to stack up against Asian competition. The Chinese national team lags behind Korea and Japan. I don't think they've qualified for a World Cup in several years. So I don't think that they're much competition for Europe currently, besides in a one-off friendly. They still have work to do before they're going to become a major power in Asia. I think it'll happen eventually. There's just the country's too big not to do well in Asia eventually, but for now they're still lagging quite behind.
Right. Moving back to PSG, sorry, I forgot to mention this before, but Maicon's been connected with them as well. Obviously, that's not a forward, so maybe they'll be able to catch him. Have you heard much about that?
I hadn't heard that rumor yet, but I like that one because I think Inter would sell just about anyone for the right price. But also, PSG wants to bring stars, and they can't continue to bring attacking midfielders and forwards. They need some other positions covered. So I think that could be an interesting plot this summer. But like I said, I haven't heard about it yet.
Okay, and moving back to the World Cup, do you think there could be any big X factors out there who could maybe change the tournament drastically?
The world, any major players who could change the World Cup?
Sorry, I meant teams. Teams.
Yeah. I'm not sure that one will come along just yet. We just had Spain become the 8th team to win it, and I think that was a gratifying story because they play a very interesting style, a very unique style, and I think they've proved that they're among the world's elite now. I'm not sure we're going to see another new winner for a little bit. But then again, it is a knockout competition, and anything can happen. But I don't foresee any new teams becoming elite national teams in the next 2 years.
Right. Obviously, you said before that Germany, you're picking Germany to win it all. It seems to be a popular pick. They've got a great team. We recently saw them in Israel. And they're definitely going to be a very fun team to watch out there. Definitely looking forward to that. Are there any other leagues in Asia that you know of that are going to be trying to make moves to match China?
Yeah, I think that Japan's league and Korea's league are already much stronger than China.
Right.
And there's also a lot of money in the Middle East, obviously. I think Raul is headed there as well. And so I think that the Middle East will continue to sort of play in the same league as China, as in poaching big name stars from Europe and hoping to use that cachet to build the leagues and to build an infrastructure. Now, like transferring that into a quality league from top to bottom is an entirely different topic. But I mean, having money and bringing in big players is a start, and it is one way to build a league. Hello?
Sorry, Zach. I think we lost connection with you. So that was very interesting stuff there. It's always good to get perspective on the Asian world because no one really knows much about it. But now I want to move back to England, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So at the start of the year, a lot of people were saying that Man City could do it, but no one knew if they could do it just because Man United always does it. And Tottenham had a strong team, Arsenal, of course. But what was it, about a month or 3 weeks out, City were down by 8 points. A lot of people didn't have a faith in them. Then they won that huge game against United. I want you to talk. Let's start off and talk about that Sunday when all the games were on in America. I don't know if you were in America at that time. Obviously, we weren't either, but this is what I heard. Fox Soccer broadcast all, I believe, 9 games on the last match day, last fixture of the Premier League. Did you get to watch the Man City game and the Man U game? And could you tell us what it was like when Aguero made that goal for you?
I actually wasn't watching. I was traveling in Asia at the time.
Okay.
I believe Fox showed all but one game, and ESPN showed another.
Right.
So Americans had access to every single game in the final match day. I think most were watching the Manchester teams, City or United.
Right.
You mentioned that a lot of people didn't have faith that Manchester City could do it. I don't think Roberto Mancini thought that Manchester City could win it.
That's
he
true.
kept saying again and again that United was favorite, that it was going to be very difficult, that he didn't quite think it was going to happen. And I mean, obviously the English press immediately goes to mind games, but I don't know if he was joking around. I think he thought Manchester United was going to win. They had a significant lead, and Sir Alex Ferguson does not give up leads in title run-ins. That just doesn't happen. So for Manchester City to win it was a surprise and was huge. And in the way they did it was phenomenal. That's what you want to see from sports, and I think many, many people enjoyed that.
Yeah, I was watching it here in Israel, and after Dzeko made that goal, I was like, okay, hold on, is this really gonna happen? And then when Aguero made that goal, I started jumping up and down. I'm not even a City fan, obviously, but just for sports, obviously, I'm a basketball, baseball, football, so everything. But for sports, that was one of the most amazing things that I've seen live. I've seen a lot of great things in baseball, no hitters, perfect games. But in football, this was an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. And what you said about Mancini not believing, I mean, it's a fact. He always would say after every press conference, "Oh, they're still ahead of us," blah blah blah. But do you think he was kind of doing that to cover his ass with the City fans, so that once the season ended, he could say, "Well, don't say I said we were going to win"?
It's possible. He needed a backup. I think he also would have had another year, because to move from a mid-level team to a title contender is already a significant step, and then to be able to win a trophy like the Premier League title that's a huge leap in very short years for Manchester City. And I think that he probably would have been given another year to try it again, even if he hadn't won. But to be able to win it this year says a lot about the mentality that Mancini has installed in his team.
Right, and I mean, this team went through a lot of different kind of elements. Tevez having that whole exile, going back to Argentina, having the battles with Roberto. Balotelli, who I love him. I really love him as a player, but he's just, I don't know what the best word for him is. He's just, I don't want to say a thug or a punk. I don't know if that's the right word, but just kind of crazy. But there's been a lot of transfer talk, and we want to kind of move into that in our last about 3 minutes of the segment. What do you think Man City's looking to do. Rumors are they want to spend more money. They're willing to sign whoever they can get. Van Persie's been one of their targets. They have a lot of other targets. Tevez just came out with a statement yesterday while he was at an event for Boca saying that he'd love to stay in Man City. What do you think they're going to do to try and defend the title next year?
I think next year's focus will be back on the Champions League because they're in that competition again, and they want to. The owners are ambitious and they want to win everything.
Right.
And so I think that the summer signings will be with the Champions League in mind and having a squad deep enough that can handle playing in both competitions.
No, that's a great point because, of course, it was very odd to see United and City not really advance this year and have to play in the Europa League and not even advance in that. In fact, it was they
were both very disappointing in the Champions League, and I think neither team will want a repeat of that.
No, definitely not. So I want to now go to the other side of Manchester. And what do you think United is going to do to try and have a run next year in the Champions League?
That's interesting because I'm not sure that the Glazers are willing to back up the team as much as Manchester City's owners are.
Right.
I think there will be changes. Alex Ferguson does not enjoy losing.
No.
And he wants to build a team that can last for when he retires. So I'm not sure. They just brought in Kagawa from Japan and Borussia Dortmund.
Right.
And he's a phenomenal player. He is exciting to watch, and he is going to be an elite player. So if they can continue to pick up a couple steals like that in the transfer window, I mean, Manchester United is never out of the running, and they will compete for trophies next season.
Right, and I want to ask you
if they're going to be back in the Champions League to the final again, but they will be a force.
And it's kind of interesting because they were a minute or two away from winning the Premier League title, and they honestly, if you really look at their schedule and all their fixtures, they didn't necessarily have the best year. They had a lot of weird ties, a lot of weird matches. So do you agree that City might have, I don't want to say got lucky, that's not fair, but do you think United didn't even play as good as they could have this year?
I actually thought Manchester United overperformed. Given their roster, they were surprisingly consistent.
Okay.
And I believe they set a record for most points without winning the Premier League.
Right.
So
interesting.
This was not an easy title. It wasn't given to Manchester City. But by the same token, I understand where those comments come from, where this wasn't a dominating Manchester United side.
Right.
They had central midfielders rotating in and out all year. But this was not a bad team that they beat. This is not a nothing trophy.
Yeah, you're right. The comments that I make, I'm so used to Man United just being so much better. But now that the city is owned by the Sheikh, the family from UAE or Dubai, I believe, they're willing to spend. I think they spent over $1 billion on the squad. So much talent in all positions. And do you think that this is something that we should, not even next year, but let's say 2014-15, is City still going to be one of these teams that's going to be in the top three, or is this just one of those things in history where it's going to last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, Manchester City is now one of the major players, and they will stick around. What will be interesting is how they navigate the financial fair play regulations, which are going to be starting in the Champions League.
Right.
Because if applied correctly, this will mean that teams can't just go out and spend vast amounts of money and become elite teams, that they'll have to have some sort of growth. I think the idea is that Manchester City have spent a significant amount of money to become one of the best teams in the world, and now that they're already there, they should be able to stay there without transgressing against the financial fair play regulations. We'll have to see how the regulations are enforced, if they are, and how that affects the landscape. I'm not sure how that will play out over the next few years.
Right, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And obviously you start off the show or the segment by saying that you believe that Germany is going to win. But let's say they don't, just because everyone's picked Germany, including me. So we want to kind of get things a little exciting here. Do you have a number 2 team that you feel are just as confident in winning if Germany can't pull it off?
Yeah, I would say Spain is my number 2 team. I think that they're on the weaker half. The group C and D is a little bit sparse for me, and I think that assuming Spain can pass through the group stages without problem, that they should make it to the final. That's not to say that they will. Obviously, there are surprises, but this is an excellent Spain team. Also fun to watch, and that has a history of winning trophies. They've won 2 in a row now. No team has ever won Euros back-to-back, and no team has ever won 3 consecutive titles, major international titles. So I think they would be a second favorite.
Yeah, and despite
the concern with them is fatigue, and if their players are fresh enough and hungry enough, and I'm not sure that they are.
No, that's a great point, of course, because they all, playing in the Champions, I guess Barcelona was in the semifinals, and Barcelona had a long season. A lot of players are from Barcelona, but it'll be very interesting to see how Spain does without Puyol, because that guy's been kind of the heart and soul of the team, in my opinion. And Villa up front, of course, will also be missing. But I'm hoping, I like Torres a lot. I know he gets a lot of hate, but I'm hoping he can bounce back from his disappointing season at Stamford Bridge and have a good Euros for the Spanish. Zach, we got to run, but this was great. We really, really appreciate your time. And we'd love to have you on again and talk some football.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it a lot.
All right, Zach, have a great day, and speak with you soon.
All right, bye.
That was Zach Lee Rigg from Goal.com. So, Moshe, it was interesting talking to him a little bit about Chinese soccer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's funny how even now they're not the best team in Asia, not the best team, sorry, the best league in Asia, but still they're making moves after all these big names, and that could continue with all the money that's coming out of there. They could make a run to be one of the top leagues in the world. Right.
Maybe not in the world, but after Europe, I'd say. Maybe better than teams in Argentina, Brazil, Israel, which is not that hard. But I don't know about that much. You think that they can be as good as a league in Spain and in Germany? I don't think that's true.
Look at the economy. Look at the money. The players always go to the money. I think it's a possibility.
Right, but the players want to play in the competition. The players who have gone to the money have been players who have aged in the Premier League, but you never know. You could be right in 50 years. For the next 5-10 years, I don't think that's going to happen. But interesting stuff there. And, if you look at China and their economy, they're really surpassing everyone in the world right now. The owners of those teams are quadrillionaires, and they're willing to invest whatever they can. In fact, China's trying to right now, I think their best thing, Moshe, would be to try and keep up with the Japanese and South Korean national teams, because Japan's done very well recently in the World Cup. Same with South Korea in the last 20 years. So maybe the new goal for China will be to kind of compete in the World Cup in the next few years. I think they were there in 2002. Don't remember, but they've been there, but they didn't do much. Even North Korea has been in the World Cup recently. So it's time for China to use that, 1.3 billion people population.
Something like that.
And advance on and cause some movement, because right now basketball is growing there. 130, 40, 50 million people. I think 140 million people tuned in to watch a lot of Yao's games on some nights when he was back in his days. And then 325 million people watched the NBA Finals last year in China.
Wow.
Yeah, that's about the population of America. America's 330. So China's definitely a great market for sports, and we'll see what happens there. We're trying to get in touch with our next guest, who's also a soccer guest, but we can't seem to get a hold of him. So we're going to take a commercial. We'll be right back. Stay with us on Lewis Live at 12 p.m. local time. We have a special guest, Samaki Walker from the Lakers, and at 11:30 a.m. In the United States, we have Henry Lawrence, former Pro Bowl and Super Bowl champion at the Los Angeles Raiders and Oakland Raiders. So stay with us. And right now it's going to be Moshe and Rafi for the rest of the show. We'll be back.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and
Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamic specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Okay, back on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Good stuff today. A lot of soccer. Our next guest is Avi Creditor. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. We're very excited to have him on. We're going to call him in about 2 minutes. But before we do, I wanted, for anyone who's just tuning in now, I wanted Moshe to kind of recap his segment with our last guest, because it was very interesting, a lot about soccer and Anelka, and from what you were telling me in the green room in the commercial that Anelka was kicked out of the head coaching position. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the owner of the team, they weren't doing very well. Anelka, I guess, isn't such a great coach maybe, and he decided, I'm going to go get another coach. I'm going to see what maybe somebody else can do here. So he went over Anelka's head, which Anelka didn't really appreciate. Without being told, next thing he knows, he's not the coach anymore. So obviously a little bit of an awkward situation there, but he went with it, I guess, but he does not seem to be having a good time there.
No, and I mean,
he's always yelling at his teammates if you like see any clips.
Right, but the thing is, Moshe, I mean, we were talking about this as well. That what is the competition there? This guy was in Chelsea, plays for the French national team, and suddenly he's playing. No offense to Chinese people, we love you, and you pretty much are running the world right now. Let's be honest. But the soccer there, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not the greatest competition. People are going there mainly for the money. If they wanted to go for the competition, they'd probably end up in Europe or South America or Israel, hopefully.
Hopefully. I mean, we sometimes have some decent foreign players. In fact, we had one from Uruguay in the 1960s whose name was Raphael. Or no, excuse me. His name was Dr. I said Raphael because his name was Dr. Gellar. He was actually an orthopedist doctor who played for Beitar Jerusalem. He was from Uruguay, and he was an amazing, amazing player that if you ask any Israeli here who was around in the 60s, every time I go to any place and they see my name is Gellar, they always say, "Oh, are you related to the Dr. Gellar, who was an amazing soccer player here in the 60s?" And I'm like, no, I am not, but I've gotten to hear a lot about him in the last few weeks. But with our next test, we're going to talk way more about the Euro. We talked kind of about everything. So I wanted to ask you, Moshe, who do you like in the Euro and why?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the boring pick here with Germany because they have all the talent. They've been playing together for a while. They have a great squad. Very exciting to watch. I also saw the game against Israel. I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Right. We watched it together.
Yeah, we did. It was a good game. If you were not an Israel fan, they controlled the game, but they didn't outscore us by so much. But still, an incredible team, and I really don't see them losing.
All right, good stuff there. Now we are going to reach out to our friend Avi Creditor, who, believe it or not, spent a year in Israel studying abroad, which is cool. So we might get into that with him. But, yeah, we're really going to examine the Euros more because it's starting tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. I know Shabbat, but if you're not Jewish, or even if you are Jewish and you don't keep Shabbat, please tune in. Hi, am I speaking with Avi?
Yeah, this is Avi.
Avi, you're on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Thank you so much for joining us.
How are you guys doing today?
We are doing good. It's a beautiful day. We just had on a correspondent from goal.com, so we're happy to have you on now to really examine the Euros. We spent more of our talk with Zach talking about the Premier League this past year, and believe it or not, he's based in China. So we talked to him about Anelka in China, a lot of interesting stuff. But we want to talk about the Euros, so we hope that's cool with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to it.
All right, let's get to it. Now, I've been asking this question to everyone who has been on, and we've had people on now from ESPN, Fox, and Goal.com. So everyone has picked Germany to as their winners. Are you going to go ahead and pick the boring pick, or are you going to do something exciting and pick someone else?
I don't know if it's that exciting, but I'm going to stick with Spain. I know they've got some major injuries with David Villa and Puyol, but I still think that they've got enough quality on that team. Germany, I mean, look, getting out of their group itself is going to be a challenge. They're going to be one of the two teams I would think to get out of that group. But, I mean, look, Netherlands, Portugal, they're easily capable of beating Germany, and Denmark's no slouch either. So, I mean, when you look at, road to a possible final, I think Spain's got an easier way, and they're still a very talented side.
Interesting. And so you think that Puyol will not, I mean, he's pretty much been the heart and soul of the team that's won the World Cup and the Euro, a guy that plays with so much passion and plays in one of the top teams in the world with Barca. You think that they'll be able to replace him with someone else?
Well, no. I mean, you can't replace someone like that, but it's not like there's a drop off from Puyol to no one. I mean, there's and they've got PK back there as well.
True.
I mean, Spain is, if Spain's flying under the radar, I think they're, that's a mistake that a lot of teams are going to make if they're not taking Spain seriously just because of who they don't have. I just think that there's enough quality, and anytime you put Xavi and Iniesta on the field, you got a chance to beat anybody. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's not a sure thing, but they're my pick.
Yeah, it's a great point you made about Iniesta. I was watching that friendly against China, and I was just, it was the 60th, 70th minute, and it was tied, and I was just saying to myself, wow, the Chinese must be thrilled. Then Iniesta comes in, and it still finishes 1-0, but still, once Iniesta came in, the match completely was, I think there were 4 balls that hit the post, and you could tell that this team is a lot different with Iniesta. In fact, some people go as far as saying that Iniesta is the reason why Messi has been able to be so successful on Barca. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know that's gearing away from the Euro, but what were your thoughts on some of those comments that a lot of people have made?
Yeah, I mean, look, it can't hurt Messi, but I think if me, you, and 8 other guys showed up on a field with Messi, he'd still do his thing. I mean, Iniesta, he's an incredible talent, and he gets I feel like he's underappreciated because he plays with Xavi and because he plays with Messi, and gets lost in that whole Barcelona team system. But in terms of integral midfielders in this world, there are few as talented as him and who have his vision. And look how many incredibly big goals he's scored. He won the World Cup for Spain. He's won countless games for Barcelona. He's, between him and Xavi, that you could say that they're the heartbeat of Barcelona, and they're definitely the heartbeat of Spain. So,
Avi, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hey,
okay. Sorry, we lost you for a second. I was saying I wanted to move on to the group of death. Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, Portugal. I was just saying that I personally, along with everyone, don't really think that Netherlands or Germany will have problems advancing. But you said this earlier. This Denmark team is very interesting, so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, I mean, they've got players that, in any other group you would look at Denmark and say, oh, you know what, this team can get through. Christian Eriksen, midfielder from Ajax, is one of the up and coming players of in the world, really, and up top, Nicholas Bentner. I mean, when he's on, he's a guy that can finish consistently. However, consistency is the problem with him, and you saw it when he was at Arsenal and even at Sunderland this past season. There are times where he just completely disappears for stretches of games. So, if Euro happens to be the 3-game stretch where he's on, then Denmark's going to cause some problems.
Right.
I mean, look, they're in a brutal group. No one's expecting them to get through, but they're definitely someone who can have a say in which of the other 3 teams, Portugal, Netherlands, or Germany, don't ultimately end up making the knockout round.
Right, but, just saying that sounds weird. Netherlands. I want to talk about Portugal. This team's really struggling. Exhibition play lost to Turkey a couple nights ago. Before that, I believe they had a teco against someone. I don't recall who it was, but a lot of concerns right now for Portugal. People are saying there's not enough talent around Ronaldo. Do you buy that statement? What do you think? Do you think Portugal can surprise some people? What do you think is going to happen there?
That's the thing. The potential for Portugal is so high, but they seem to underdeliver every time. And it's something where you don't get the sense that they're gonna make that deep of a run because of the group that they're in. But anytime Cristiano Ronaldo is on your side, you got a chance. I mean, not having Ricardo Carvalho is definitely going to hurt their defense. Plays at Real Madrid, one of the better defenders in the world. But with him not there, onus falls on Pepe to have a really big tournament against some of the most talented attackers in the world. At the end of the day, they're going to go as far as Ronaldo can take them.
Right.
And it hasn't worked out for them in the past in terms of getting to that ultimate, winner's podium.
Right.
But look, it wouldn't be that big of a shock for them to make the knockout round, all that being said.
Yeah, we'll see. And, of course, I used to be such a huge fan of the Portugal teams that had a Deco and all those other great guys. Portugal, it seems, in the last few years has and, of course, how could I forget Figo, who's one of my favorites of all time. But it seems that they've kind of gone downhill. I don't want to say in talent, just they haven't been playing that well. And a lot of, even in Euro 2008, their qualification was very, very hard, had a couple difficult losses. They've barely made it into the last 2 Euros. So you kind of also hope that maybe they'll have a good competition, because then Ronaldo will get a lot of bad publicity from the rest of the world. So we'll see what happens there. Now I want to move on to another I guess they're all interesting groups. It's the Euro. It's the best tournament in the world, in my opinion. It's even better than the World Cup. I love having the argument, but we don't have enough time to do that now. Group A is pretty boring, let's be honest. So let's move on to a more exciting group. If we had you on for longer, we'd examine every group. Group C, Spain, Italy, Republic of Ireland, who we're rooting for because Tommy Smith is all about that, and Croatia, who beat Israel, so I don't like them. Beat us twice in the Euro qualifying, so I'm not a fan of them. But I think Spain and Italy will be playing this weekend, I think Sunday or Monday or maybe even Saturday. Do you give a chance in hell for Italy to pull off a shocker? I know you picked Spain to win, but can Italy do this? Can Italy win?
I don't think Italy's beating Spain. They can. I mean, you look up and down that roster, there's quality, but I don't think Italy's beating Spain. Can they get out of that group? Sure. There's a lot going on in Italy right now, though, with this match-fixing scandal. A couple of players on the Italian national team implicated in that scandal.
Right.
It's not going to be easy for them. It's not just a matter of showing up and playing. They're showing up and playing with all of this hanging over their heads. It's not to say that, the last time this happened in Italy, they went and won the World Cup. So it's, it's one of those things where you would think that it would be a distraction that would completely hold them back, but at the same time, they've already shown that they can, get past it with a completely different team, with a completely different group of veterans. I don't think they're beating Spain, though. Croatia, now that Olic is out on their front line,
right,
they all of a sudden look like they're not as strong as they once were. And then Ireland, I don't think anybody's giving them much of a chance, but that said, that's a chance for them to thrive. I mean, no one's taking them seriously in this group,
right.
So why can't they spring a couple surprises? At the end, I think Spain and Italy will get through.
And I probably agree with that, but I think Tommy said this on our show. A lot of they're ranked 18th in the FIFA World Rankings. I know rankings aren't really something that people respect or people really talk about, but still, that's impressive. Number 18 in the world. To not give them the respect for that's, I don't know, that's not really nice. But we'll see what happens with them. And now my favorite group to talk about, and the group that we've talked about the most on the show the last 3 weeks, Group D, Ukraine, Sweden, France, and England. Let's start off with England. Wow. I mean, when was the last time you saw someone break their jaw in a soccer match? I don't think I've ever seen that before. And, of course, Cahill's out now for the Euro. So many injuries. Hudson only getting hired a month ago. Harry being speculated for 5 months. So, I don't know. What should we expect from this English team? For the first time in a while, I don't know. I mean, they can lose all 3 matches, or they could win all 3 matches. What do you think is going to happen?
I personally think England is just an absolute train wreck. I mean, I don't think that they have a shot in hell to get out of their group, to be completely honest. I mean, Rooney's suspended for the first 2 games of the tournament. They've got their midfield has been depleted with injuries to Gareth Barry and, now the Cahill injury. And like you said, there's just been so much working against them in the build-up that it wouldn't make any sense for them to be able to just all of a sudden pull together and get through. I just don't see it happening. They get so much press just because they're England, but at the end of the day, if this was any other country going through so many injuries, so much turmoil, the John Terry, Rio Ferdinand business.
Oh man, we'll get to that. We'll get to that, Avi. We're gonna get to that.
It just doesn't. It just doesn't add up. I don't see it happening. I think France will run away with that group, and then. The second spot, I think, is, belong to Sweden.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. We just got some news. We're looking in our media room right now. It appears Jermaine Defoe just announced this morning, I think, or maybe it was last night, that he will also miss some time because his father just passed away. So now, that being said, looking at the top up front right now, we got Andy Carroll and Danny Welbeck. And I've never been an Andy Carroll fan. That's just me, but Danny Welbeck's very young, 21 years old. Carroll's 23 years old. These guys are the guys that are going to be the forwards and the strikers for the team the first 2 games. I mean, that's kind of scary, in my opinion, for an England national team. No disrespect to them. They're very young, a lot of talent, but these guys are the up front as strikers. So would you be worried about that if you're an English fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. It's what I'm trying to say. It's everyone looks at England and says, "Oh, they're England. They're going through." But no, that's not. Even if Defoe were there, I mean, he's such a streaky player
Very streaky,
that
right.
can be so prolific, but he can also make some prolific misses. Your heart goes out to him for him losing his father.
Right.
Any time, especially at a time like this. And condolences to him and his family, but. I guess it's unclear how much time he's going to have to miss. The FA said that they're not going to be replacing him on the roster, but like you said, if he's not back in time for their opening game against France, then it's Welbeck and Carroll, and I don't think the French will really have a problem with that. I will say this: I think Welbeck is an incredible talent that's on the rise, and he's capable of doing some things in this tournament, but. It might just be a bit soon for him, and it's a lot of pressure. If he was playing off of a player like Rooney, that's one thing, but I don't see it happening.
Absolutely, and I mean, the last time this British team has won the World Cup, it's a scary thing to say, 1966.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and the last time they made it past quarterfinals, round of 16 was 1990, fourth place under Robson, but... going back, it's also scary. I mean, I don't think Peter Crouch is on the team. I don't think he made the cut for the 23. But how scary would it be if Peter Crouch was your guy as your striker? Peter Crouch is he's 31, and I mean, I love how he's tall, and I love what he's been able to do in the past. But, I mean, imagine Peter Crouch being up front for the national team this year.
Yeah, I'd rather not. That's a frightening.
Yeah.
It's a frightening thought to pin your hopes on that. And England has a lot of issues on their roster, their depth. There's some good young talent coming up through their pipeline, and I'm not saying that they're their worst team in this tournament, but in a group that features Sweden and Ukraine and France, for them not to be a shoo-in top two finisher says all you really need to know about where they stand right now.
Right, and we're going to end with this because we're Israel Sports Radio. We love some controversy. We're Jews. I know you're Jewish. I know you spent a year abroad here. I was looking at your page, your LinkedIn profile. So we got to talk about this whole Ferdinand, Terry, Hodgson, Ferdinand's agent. I mean, this is becoming a soap opera, and it's been very amusing for me to read. I don't support racism. We live in Israel. I'm not about that. But I think that it's the most ridiculous thing that Ferdinand was not called up to this team. And the call to football matter is absolutely ridiculous when he's the centerpiece of a Man U defense. Please tell me you agree with me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if football reasons is what's being used, then you take Ferdinand over Terry. I don't think it's close. Terry, I mean, he's not, he's lost a step. He's not as what he once was, but the whole thing just boggles my mind. And he's got some deal with the devil. I mean, look, he continues to get away with so much, and here he is lifting a Champions League trophy in a game he didn't play, and now he's the one that ends up going to Euro, even though he was the one stripped of the captaincy and is the whole reason that they went through turmoil and finding a new coach in the months leading up to this tournament. And now here he is, and he's going to be the centerpiece of that defense. I don't get it, but then again, I'm not British. I'm not inside. I'm not in the FA. So they have their reasons, and it is what it is. But I don't really see that working out in their favor all that much.
And speaking of the FA, I read an article last night that was saying that, of course, England's press conference is going to be, I think, in the next over the week, very soon, and. No one really cares about this team right now. Everyone just is going to want to ask immediately about this whole Terry thing, and that's kind of sad because you kind of have to feel bad for the players because they want people to ask about the team. But this is something that's going to haunt them, especially if they do poorly, and especially if Terry plays poorly. I mean, if Terry plays poorly, knowing a lot of Brits, they're going to go nuts. This is something that they'll still talk about in 2 years, about how Hodgson was such an idiot for making that decision. And of course we're in Israel, so we have a lot of Spurs fans who really wanted Harry to have, well, I guess they wanted Harry to have the position because they love England, but they didn't want him to leave the Spurs. So we'll see what happens there. Avi, it's been great having you on. We'd love to have you on again, maybe throughout the Euro, talk some Euro while it's going on. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate the time today. Thank you.
All right, Avi, have a good day. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
All right, Avi Creditor, who is a soccer journalist, writes for a lot of publications, done Sports Illustrated, a lot of great stuff. We're very honored to have him. We're going to take about a 2-minute commercial. On the other line, who do we have?
Henry Lawrence.
And who is Henry Lawrence, for our listeners who don't know?
He used to play for the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders. He won 2 Super Bowls, made a few Pro Bowls, a great offensive lineman.
And a singer. We'll get to that with him. He is a singer and records music, so that's very exciting stuff there. We'll be back.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
All right, we're back on Lewis Live. Our Lewis is not in the house today. We're joined by Moshe and Raphael. We have about 45 minutes left on the show. We are going to be calling right now Henry Lawrence. And if you're just joining us now, real quick, Moshe, again, tell our listeners who he is and what he's accomplished in his career, because it's a lot of exciting stuff.
He's a former offensive lineman for the Los Angeles and Oakland Raiders, won 2 Super Bowls, including against my beloved Redskins.
Sucks for you.
Yeah, he also played in 2 Pro Bowls, also played with 3 Hall of Fame offensive linemen, Jim Otto, Art Shell, and Gene Upshaw.
Art Shell, wow, okay.
Yeah,
of course, Art Shell, I think, was a coach on the Raiders later in his career.
Yeah, he's Henry Lawrence, really one of the great offensive linemen, I think, very underrated. I guess we'll talk to him more about that.
And right now we're going to be calling his manager, his agent, so hopefully we don't have any problems with that and we can get a hold of him. And very exciting interview for us. I mean, former Super Bowl champion, former Pro Bowler, a singer, a really great guy from what we've been told. Very excited to have him on. We're hoping that everything works out. Hi, is Henry Lawrence there? This is Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
Yes, I'm gonna give you another number, and he's waiting for your call.
Okay, well you're on the radio right now, so can you send it to me via email?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so that happens, guys. It's his manager. A lot of people don't like to give out numbers, so we're gonna wait for Robert Sidler to send us a message. Of course, I didn't want him to broadcast the number on the radio because that's not fair to Mr. Lawrence. So until then, I guess we could take another commercial just because we haven't been able to take that many today. And we'll be back. And please stay with us. It's going to be a very, very exciting interview. A very passionate man. I told you, singer, gospel music. We're actually going to try and find one of his clips on YouTube for you guys. So please stay with us. We'll be back in probably about 1:30 to 2 minutes.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Tapio, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Back on Lewis Live, we got Mr. Henry Lawrence's number. We will be dialing him up right now. Very excited to have him on. We're going to have him on for about 20 minutes. We're going to take a commercial break and have former Laker great Samaki Walker from the NBA for those of you who don't know who the Lakers are. So right now, like I said, we are going to dial up Henry Lawrence, who is a former Pro Bowl or former Super Bowl champion, singer, motivational speaker, everything. This is very exciting for us, and we're dialing him up. And I'm going to ask a couple questions, and then Moshe is going to come in and talk a lot about his career. So we're waiting for him to pick up.
Hello.
Hi, am I speaking with Henry Lawrence?
This is he.
Henry Lawrence, we're very excited to have you on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We are doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Israel, or I guess it's almost nighttime here. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We know you're busy, and thank you again.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I want to start off and talk. We were telling our listeners all, former Pro Bowl or former Super Bowl champion, but I want to even fast forward everything to when your career ended. And this is a question I love to ask all our former professional athletes that have been on. What was it like when you played your last game as a Raider? What was it like to step off the field and know, I'm not going to be playing this game anymore. I have to move on to a new chapter in my life?
Well, to be quite honest, my last game, I didn't know that it was going to be my last game, because I ended up getting my eyeball split open in practice in training camp. So basically, that's literally what happened. An eye injury in practice pretty
Wow.
much kind of sealed the fate.
Wow. Okay. Wow. We did not know that. That sounds very. I'd never heard something like that in football. We're very sorry to hear that. I wanted to ask you though. Throughout all your years as an NFL player, with everything going on right now, with all the more examinations into concussions, you're of course a lineman, so you got hit a lot. I wanted to ask you, what is your thoughts on everyone talking about all the concussions and how all these people have maybe killed themselves because of it and all that kind of stuff? It would be very interesting, I think, for our listeners to get a perspective from a guy who got hit every day in practice, every game, what your thoughts are on the whole concussion topic going around in the world of sports right now.
Well, I have my concerns about it, and it would, quite naturally I would have concerns about it because of a lot of guys that played during my era, and actually one of my teammates that I played with had, questionable in terms of what was the effect or cause of his. So I have my concerns about it because as a lineman, literally, you're basically making contact every play that you're on the field. Different from, say, the quarterback, run wide receiver, where you're not involved directly in the play, but everybody you're making contact, and most times, quite often, it's with the head.
Right. So I want to ask you a little bit more about what's going on with what happened with Mr. Seau, Jr. Seau is very, very sad. Do you think that there was too much pressure on him after his career? What do you think happened there? Or do you just think that it's his personal business and the media should get out of it? That's kind of what I think, but I'm curious to hear what you think.
Well, I can't make a professional of what caused it. Why I think that nowadays, with the athletes, they have a lot less things that they would be burdened with because they're making a substantial amount of money, and when they come out of the NFL, they basically should be pretty much set. They do nothing but just put it in the bank and an annuity. I mean, they're set, but we're getting more guys that are coming out that are filing bankruptcies and all kinds of things that are current. But I can't begin to assess Junior's situation in terms of why he would go to that land. I know that, over the years, I know I've gone through some depression stages where I just didn't want to do anything. I didn't care. But I don't know what the extent of what he was going through.
Interesting. And, it's such a sad thing because such a class act guy was really kind of one of the most important people in sports, not just as an athlete, but just as a person. People had so much respect for him. We've had a lot of great guests on from San Diego who said that they knew people who cried when they heard the news. So it's very sad about that. But now, Henry, you're a former Pro Bowl or former Super Bowl champion. So my co-host wants to kind of talk about your playing years and all the great stuff that happened with that. And then I want to let our listeners know, for anyone who is going to continue and stay with us for the interview, as we hope you do, we are going to be playing a clip of Mr. Lawrence singing. And we're going to talk a little about your singing career because that's also very exciting. But let's first get to your playing career. And here's my co-host.
Hey, you played with some incredible offensive linemen, including Jim Otto, Art Shell, Gene Upshaw. In my opinion, it was one of the best offensive lines of all time. At the time, did you guys realize truly how good you were?
Well, there was not a lack of confidence in what our abilities could do. I mean, matter of fact, I was one of the kitties actually standing backing up those guys, the Gene Upshaw, Jim Otto, and then of course Dave Dalby stepped in for him, and then you had George Bueller and John Vella. And John Vella, of course, got for 2 Heisman trophies coming out of college. One of the best pass blockers that I saw, during my NFL career. On the other side, of course, Dave Casper, Manchester, and just before I come in, Bob Brown, who also is a Hall of Famer too. I didn't get to play with him. He retired the year I came in. But it goes on and on.
Also, it's been said that you guys really revolutionized the positions along the offensive line. Before you guys came along, there weren't the big bodies that you see nowadays. But when you guys came in, a bunch of 300-pound guys were absolutely clobbering the defensive linemen and really, I think, revolutionized the game of football completely. What are your thoughts about that? Did you guys realize truly the difference that you were making in the NFL forever?
Well, I think that Al Davis had quite a bit of foresight in terms of what was needed. But then you had a couple other teams also. You had the Washington Redskins who came along during that time, a little bit later after they had 300-pounders also. And then the Rams had some big guys. But the rest of the teams, they had the weight limit. They had the guys had to come in 270, 275 or whatever. And with the Raiders, there was, guys came in, the guys were pretty big fellas. But the main concern was, can you play? And if you could play, they didn't hassle you about the weight.
Right, and you mentioned Al Davis. What was it like playing for a guy like Al Davis, one of the most charismatic, interesting guys in sports?
Well, during that time, every guy, I'd say probably at least 80, 90% of the guys in the league wanted to get to Oakland and play for Al Davis because he was known for being, somewhat of a, I don't know what you call a different kind of a owner. And he didn't put a whole lot of shackles on. You got to do so. His only concern was that you can play.
Right, I guess that's what really matters at the end of the day. In Super Bowl 18, that was, for me personally, I don't like reading about that game. I'm a huge Redskins fan, very depressing, but...
Get over it.
It's difficult. I wish we had that number 4, What was it like in that game? Marcus Allen had one of the best, up until a few years ago, the best running game in a Super Bowl, running behind you guys. Also, the Redskins were favored over you guys. What was that Super Bowl like, especially with history in the making with Marcus Allen?
It was intensity in the air going into and he's just slapping the city of Tampa adopted their team. Of course, Tampa was an NFC haven there, but then we went out, and there were a couple of instances where we were in the same basic environment with the Redskin guys. And some of the guys were so snooty, they had their nose up in there, like, yeah, we got it like that, So we were inspired also. There was an incentive. Hey, we know what had happened during the season. We lost to the Redskins, I think it was by 2 points, but also in the same token, we had 7 turnovers in that game. And we were very, very confident that we would not go in that game, make the turnovers that occurred in that game during the season. Same as what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right. Mr. Lawrence, would you be able to speak up a little bit? We're having a little bit of difficulty here hearing you.
Okay.
Going back to the game and Marcus Allen, the play of that game was his 70-plus yards for the touchdown. What people don't realize about that play, I think, is it started off to the left and then circled back around to the right and that's really when he made his break. That play was made on your side of the line, keeping on pushing the defensive line up and over. Is that something that you guys worked on practice, maybe cutbacks of that nature to that extreme? Because that was really something.
No, we just did our basic standing on that play, and it was a 17 Bob Trey-O, and that's when the back goes in, Marcus gets the ball going in. But what occurs on that is we do a seal from the backside. I do a flow from the backside to keep that side from cutting them off. And at the same time, when Marcus come, he did his flow going that way. The flow's going that way. And then what he did was made his cut, and that was just the kind of back that Marcus was. You just never know what he would do on the field. And that's basically what occurred. He made a cut back, and I was doing my flow to seal the backside. And then sealing the backside, it ended up turning into a very opportune blocking lane for Marcus to come through.
Right, and you're back right now with Raphael, Mr. Lawrence, and I wanted to ask you, it's very fascinating for me to talk to a former player with all the issues going on. You obviously had a spectacular and amazing career, but everything going on right now with the bounties, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, don't you see that as disgraceful, or what Coach Greg Williams said in the locker room and how he went a little overboard? I love hearing the perspective of former players who can sometimes speak more open-minded because they don't have to worry about getting fined or other things like that. So we'd really love to hear what you have to say about all the bounty scandal in New Orleans right now.
Well, all I can speak on is basically what I've been reading. I think that it's pretty disturbing if that occurred in the way that occurred, because, I mean, in playing the game of football, your job anyway is to play hard and to try to make the best tackle, make the best hit. But to add on to that bounty, I really can't conceive it in that manner. But the way it occurred, and they've got facts that do it, and it's inexcusable that one would do that, because you're out there playing the game to make the best tackle, best hit, best block anyway, the best catch. So all of that, sometimes what happens is guys sometimes become disabled because of a certain hit or whatever. But I couldn't conceive it, but it did occur, I guess.
All right, now, Mr. Lawrence, we are very, very proud to say that we are now going to play, if you don't mind, about a minute clip. I know it's a long time, but we really want people to hear your singing of your song "Wake Up Everybody." That was, I believe, performed in 1991 at a hospital. So is that okay if we play that for our listeners?
That's fine, yes.
All right, so we're going to do that right now, and then when we come back from that, stay on the line with us, obviously. When we come back from that, we really want to hear about your passion as a singer, how that started. So we're going to play the clip right now. Okay, we're going to play the clip right now, just talking to a producer.
A changing. The world is changing. In minutes, hours, the wall is coming down. Everybody, yeah, of all back and time for thinking ahead. World has changed so very much. What it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Yeah. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach us the way.
All right, so that was amazing, Mr. Lawrence. I want to ask you, how does a player go from being, of course, that was Henry Lawrence's song "Wake Up Everybody" that he sang in 1991. How does a player go from being, an NFL player, a guy with so much tenacity and having to hit people and being an offensive lineman and singing such pure and magical music? Because that was really amazing to hear you sing. I want to hear more about that. It's very interesting to us.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I went from singing to football and NFL. I did my first performance stage. I did a stage play in third grade, and I did the song Dale, the one Harry Betty Funny. Daylight coming, I want to go home. Dale, Dale. Daylight coming, I want to go home. That was my first performance. And, of course, then I grew up in the church choir, and then I performed in high school in the school chorus. So, I mean, music was not unfamiliar to me. It's something I had done out in the fields when I was doing migrant farm work. We sang, we did. It was a way of life.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just so amazing. I read that you've been able to perform all over the world, in Japan, England. What is it like to be able to go from being, people watching you as a football player to people watching you as a singer?
Well, I tell you, it's phenomenal. And to be quite honest with you, our audience, we have great audience here in the U.S., but I tell you, the intensity that they watch and that they get into performing in the other parts of the world, Japan, China, Malaysia, in Europe, down Dominican Republic. I mean, it's phenomenal. It really is. They really get into the music, and I'm a passionate kind of a performer, so they pick up on that too. I did Gala Blues in France, and it was like a whole totally different experience. And in Italy, I did it, and one of the observers, they come and they say, "You sing with such feelings. I just love it," And so, I mean, it's a big turn on, to be able to perform for audiences like that. And we have great audience in the U.S. also.
Right, and I mean, I'm sure our listeners really enjoyed that clip. So if any of our listeners wanted to listen to more of your music or buy your music or find a way to hear more of your singing, because how would they go about to do that? How would they find you?
Well, my manager at this time, we're working on to fix that so that they'll be able to go online, pull it up, and be able to obtain some of the music. There is some available, just that I had not pursued that venue, that avenue of doing it. And that mode of operation with it. So I am working on that.
Okay.
Be able to go online and put me up.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. And we want to end the interview with this, Mr. Lawrence. You also started, of course, we talked football, we talked music, we talked everything, but now you want to talk about what you do to help the community, and you have a foundation called the Henry Lawrence Youth Foundation. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that and what the goal of it is and what you're how you're involved in it.
Basically, because God blessed me with the opportunity to be able to reach out, reach up, and reach back. And in that process, I do have an opportunity that I get that I see where I can encourage a kid, a youth, to move forward, to forge ahead. I take that opportunity, join up with other charities. I work with the Manny Children's Health Services, which is called Manny Children's Health Services. I've worked with the Children's Hospital. We did a thing with the Shriners. I've done, St. Jude. I've done, it's a blessing for me. I've been blessed to be able to do so. And I also get an opportunity with the NFL Gospel Choir. We sing, we do concert for every Super Bowl, but we also have extended out and we're doing others. We just come from New York with Play USA, where President Clinton was speaking. So we have an opportunity to help spread the gospel also, and I think that is very, very important, so that young people, the kids, can see that, NFL sports guys and other sports guys also they believe in God. They know that higher power, is what it's all about. So I think that it's great to make that platform available so kids can see it. They don't just hear about it, they can see it. also through the Hindu Youth Foundation. Every opportunity that I get, it's a blessing every time.
Well, Mr. Lawrence, we sure thank you so much for your time. And, there's a lot of good music in Israel, so if you ever want to come do a performance in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, I'm sure we'd love to have you here.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's get to work on it. Let's get something set up, and we can come. Our voice will travel.
That would be awesome, man. Mr. Lawrence, we want to, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great day, and, again, thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Stay blessed.
That was Mr. Henry Lawrence, former Pro Bowl, former Super Bowl champion. Very exciting interview there. Next, we've had a great show today. We're going into our third hour. We're going to be going only to 30 today, only to 7:30 or 12:30 or 9:30 if you're in Cali. Or let's not forget the other states in the West Coast. There's Arizona, I believe, and there's
Oregon
and Washington. So if anyone's listening out there, I don't want to give any bias out that I don't support those states. In fact, Seattle, which is in Washington, right?
Yeah.
Is a beautiful, beautiful city from what I've heard. Starbucks was founded there, among other things. Microsoft as well in that area.
Yep.
The Seattle Seahawks are there. Our boy Clonari Carter is there right now. Unfortunately, we want to send a refuah shlema out to his grandmother right now. We hope she gets better soon. If Clonari is listening in Seattle, hope everything's doing better there, and we're looking forward to having you on the show next week, Clonari. But now we're going to dial up another exciting guest, Samaki Walker, former NBA Laker great, won a couple titles, and very interesting career. Played all over the world, to be honest, Lebanon, Syria, Europe. So we're going to talk to him about that, and we'll hope that everything works out. Dialing him up right now.
Forwarded to.
All right, so we're not getting a hold of Mr. Walker, so we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Try and get in touch with Walker, or with Samari Walker. If we don't get in touch with him today, we will. We'll have him on next week. No worries. This happens a lot. If you listen to our show, you see a lot of these athletes just, I don't know, they forget, they don't pick up. But we'll go to commercial and hopefully get him back. So stay with us on Lewis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com. And check out the store, by the way, which is on our website. A lot of great stuff. Kippas, tzitzit, I think, menorahs, T-shirts, pants.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom. DJ Venom. DJ Venom. DJing parties throughout Israel. Birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event to the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back on Lewis Live, 7:07 local time, 12:07 Eastern time. We have not been able to get in touch with Mr. Walker, Samaki Walker, former Laker. So we probably will have to have him on next week, but that's okay. We had a very, very interesting interview with Mr. Lawrence, Henry Lawrence, former Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion for the Los Angeles and Oakland Raiders. Played with, who did he play with most? He played with so many great guys.
Yeah, Jim Otto, Art Shell, Gene Upshaw. He played with some fantastic offensive linemen, along with Marcus Allen,
right,
and others.
And played under Al Davis, so rest in peace. Yeah, I mean, Gene Upshaw's involved in the game right now. Art Shell was a coach. Jim Otto's just kind of a legend in the football. So very cool for him, and an amazing musician. What do you think of his voice?
He's got quite a good voice. Quite impressive. I did not expect that, must be honest.
In fact, I loved his voice so much that we're going to play a little bit more of the clip for you guys just because I really liked it, and it's very, very good. And he was a guest on our show, so we want to give him some more props. So please enjoy the next 2-3 minutes of Henry Lawrence's song, Wake Up, Everybody. It's really amazing. If you love gospel and soul music, it's really beautiful. So please listen.
Well,
All right, so that was Henry Lawrence's "Wake Up, Everybody." Very, very great song. As we mentioned, the interview has traveled to pretty much everywhere: England, Japan. We're trying to get him a stop in Israel. That'd be a lot of fun. What do you think about that, Moshe?
That'd be really cool.
Concert in Tel Aviv.
I could see that going down very well. I think that'd be really cool.
And hopefully we'd have some. You'd hope that Mr. Lawrence would hook us up. And the reason I've been calling him Mr. Lawrence is we like to respect people. I don't want to say who are older because I know that could cause a lot of controversy. But a guy who's very well respected among all his peers, and a guy who's in so many different Hall of Fames, not the Football Hall of Fame, but. So if anyone out there is wondering why I always call him why I call him Mr., because I usually don't call anyone Mr. It's just a show of respect for me. I'm not disrespect to anyone else, and I kind of just go with the flow here on Lewis Live, and I just felt like saying Mr. And I think Moshe said Mr. a couple times too. So
yeah, I mean, how can you not to somebody of that stature who
right
done so many great things through his
yeah,
career?
and his foundation's amazing, his singing's amazing. Anyway, we're very excited to have an Israeli guest on, or actually he's American, but he lives in Israel. Scout from Maccabi Rishon LeZion, which had a very good year this year. He was the scout. We're still not sure what's going to happen with him right now, but we won't talk about that. We're very happy to have AJ Mitnick on, and we're going to dial him up, and we're going to talk to him about what it's like to be a scout, what he did for the team this year, and then we're going to talk to him NBA draft, and then we're going to end the show in about 13 minutes. So please stay with us, and we'll try and get Samaki on again at some other time. But we have had a great show, and we are going to dial up AJ Mitnick right now, scout for Rishon LeZion, Maccabi Rishon LeZion, which made the Final Four in Israel this past season. It lost, unfortunately, but still had a very good year. A lot of great players. Ron Lewis, that's Cholon. Derwin Kitchen, who played for Florida State. Brandon Bowman, who played for Georgetown. A lot of great players on that team. And we're dialing him up right now, hoping to get in touch with him and talk to him about this past season and everything that's happened with we're having some problems here. Don't worry, we're going to fix it as soon as we can. It happens every once in a while where our equipment doesn't recognize numbers. If you call America and then you call Israel, it says, wait a minute, why are you calling Israel? You should be calling America. So it could be something along those lines. We're going to try one more time and hope there's not a problem. If there is, we are going to go to commercial. We're going to go to a quick commercial, and then we'll be right back. I'm sure we'll figure this out by then, because we have our techie guy Moshe here who will help us do it. So we'll be back in about a minute, hopefully, if we can get this figured out. You think we should be able to get this figured out, Moshe?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we'll be back.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel.
Back on Lewis Live here, hoping that we finally have figured it out. If not, we're going to have to talk to AJ and see if there's another number we can reach him on. Okay, it looks like we're good, and we're going to get AJ on the line. Hi, am I speaking with AJ?
Yes, sir. How's it going today?
Good, AJ. I was just telling our listeners you were a scout for Rishon last year, so we want to start and talk about that. I was mentioning some of the American players that played Derwin Kitchen from Florida State, Brandon Bowman from Georgetown. So what was your role in the team this past year? What did you do as a scout? And I was hoping you could tell our listeners a little bit more about that.
Okay, so this past year, I was mostly assisting the coaching staff on coming up with game plans for upcoming games, which was actually very exciting because, as you mentioned before, we had a very successful year, so I got the opportunity to be hands-on preparing for the Final Four of the Cup and the Final Four of the League, which was an excellent experience, especially working with experienced coaches like Effie Birnbaum and Matan Charush. I got an opportunity to see a lot of different game from a lot of different angles, to learn a lot how to analyze the game a lot better over the course of the year. But my main responsibility was to make scouting reports, both video and written scouting reports on different players' tendencies. Hello?
Successful year for Maccabi Rishon LeZion, especially since Joe Crawford went out with that injury right before you guys made the playoffs. Of course, Joe Crawford, the Kentucky great. So I want to talk to you kind of about what's been going on in Israel with basketball, with the 7th seed Maccabi Ashdod making all the way to the finals. Do you think, as a guy who's very involved in the basketball league here, do you think that teams that are, the 6, 7, 8, 9 seeds are starting to get more talent and be able to compete against the better teams, or 1 through 3?
Well, this past season, with the rules changing from the Russian rule, which is a rule that there always had to be at least 2 Israelis on the court at all times, moving to being able to have 4 foreign players and having them be allowed to play the entire game, I think that kind of leveled the playing field a little bit, because I think the difference between the American players who come versus the level of talent of the Israeli players and the bigger teams versus the smaller teams, the gap is much smaller. So being able to have 3-4 American players on the court the whole time made the competition throughout the league. I think if you look through the league, there was a lot of games that went to overtime, a lot of games that finished with less than 3-point differences. I think those rules are really good for the competition level of the game and for the level of competitiveness in the fourth quarter, like just in terms of games being closer games. On the flip side, I think that a lot of Israeli players got a lot less opportunities this year, and I think on Monday they're meeting to kind of see the way to balance of the benefit of whether they should keep the rules or go back to the Russian rule.
Right, and what you mentioned, that rule is changing the whole game. I remember watching some games this year, especially a team, Bnei Sharon Herzliya, had 4 Americans on the court at once. That was really interesting stuff. We have about 9 minutes left, then we're going to move on to Samaki Walker. We hope you just got in touch with him. I wanted to ask you, as you said, you're a scout. You help come up with game plans. You help kind of find players for the team that come from America. So I want to look at this draft that's coming up June 28th in Madison Square Garden in New York. A lot of interesting players. I want to focus on the lottery, and maybe if we have time, look at other players and examine them. But let's start off with Anthony Davis, who I think we can all say will be going to the Hornets. Do you think he's going to be the impact on the offensive side of the court? Do you expect him to contribute immediately as an offensive-type player to the Hornets next season?
Well, I definitely expect him to contribute offensively. I just think that you have to have a little more realistic expectations of what he can do. Anthony Davis, he's not a prospect like a Kevin Garnett or a Tim Duncan where he's going to come in and for sure he's going to get you 20 points right off the bat. I actually see Davis as a little bit more, a more upside player, but a little bit closer to Marcus Camby, where he's very long, he's an incredible shot blocker, he can make disrupt with his length, but he also has above average handling for a big man. He runs the floor like, he moves like a guard, and he has the same court awareness like a guard. Similar to, if you watch Marcus Camby play, there's a reason why the Nuggets for a while led the league in alley-oops. It wasn't just because of Andre Miller. Marcus Camby also, their ball movement was excellent because they had a very smart center playing through the middle. So I think Anthony Davis will be a little bit more in that mold. I think as a rookie, he can probably, will definitely get you double-figure points. He'll probably be up there in centers in terms of assists, but I don't think he's going to score 20, 25 points a game as a rookie like a Blake Griffin.
Right, and of course, Anthony Davis was actually a point guard his sophomore year of high school. I think he was only 6'3", then had that crazy growth spurt where he became, the man he is now, a big guy down low. So that's a very interesting point you made about his ability to pass and his ability to do all that. And you compared him to Camby, which I also think is a great comparison. Camby's been one of the great shot blockers of our time. Now I want to move on to a guy that there's a lot of question marks about. Bradley Beal was a freshman last year. Brad Beal was a freshman at Florida last year. Florida was a very, very good team, the top 15 all year. A very young guy, though, 18 years old. A lot of people are not sure if number 4 is such a good selection in most mock drafts. He's in the top 5. Give us your input on Brad and what you think he'll be able to contribute to a team like the Kings, Cavs, or the Trailblazers who got their pick from the Nets.
Well, I think right now he's in that spot in a lot of mock drafts, but realistically, I think when we get closer to the draft, I think he's one of the players that might fall a little bit. I think he's a little bit undersized to be a full-time shooting guard. He doesn't really have the skill set to be a point guard at all. And I see him being a very similar prospect to Marcus Thornton, where he definitely can score at an NBA level, he definitely can shoot at an NBA level, but I don't see him being major piece that you can build a team around. And I think at the top 5 pick, a lot of teams are looking for a guy with that type of upside. I think as teams start to break players down a little bit more, I think he might slip in the draft a little bit. It might be more like a mid to late lottery pick versus being a top 5 pick.
Yeah, and another guy like that another guy who, I don't want to say struggled at UConn, but didn't really live up to his potential. Was going to go to prep school for a year, decided not to. I know a lot of UConn fans were excited about it. Of course, I'm talking about 6'10", 250-pound Andre Drummond, who has kind of plummeted in the draft. Well, not plummeted, he's still in the top 7 in most mock drafts, but he was number 2 for a while. And then I think Thomas Robinson kind of had a great run this year, and he kind of plummeted to the top 3. But do you buy all this hype on Drummond even being in the top 7?
Well, first of all, if I was Andre Drummond, I would buy a house for DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan pretty much, because of how good DeAndre Jordan played these last 2 years, there's no chance that Drummond's going to slip out of the lottery. And if I was drafting, I'd be very hesitant taking that high because I actually see more Kwame Brown in him than I see DeAndre Jordan. I see a player that doesn't have very good hands, a player that's not very strong in his fundamentals, and yeah, he has the body type, similar to a Derek Favors, but I don't see him having that level of comfort like Favors had in college, and I don't see him having, I don't know, just for some reason, a lot of times I see him, he makes very silly mistakes and things that just can't be taught, and I'm not sure that his court awareness and that his natural skill is enough to make him be worthy of a top 10 pick.
Yeah, and you made a great point. I've been actually saying on our show, DeAndre Jordan got a $50 million contract from the Clippers this year for pretty much not doing much, averaging 5 points, 8 rebounds. A guy who people saying, oh, he's going to live up to his potential, blah, blah, blah. And I remember the Warriors actually tried to sign him, and then the Clippers matched the offer, which was kind of ridiculous in my opinion. But we'll see. Next, I want to talk about a guy who I personally love, 6'8", Harrison Barnes, a guy who people say didn't live up to the hype in college. I don't necessarily agree with that, but a guy who's very strong, 6'8", can play shooting guard, kind of more of a forward type. going all the way to number 11 or 12, which I just find shocking. But in most is 7, 8.
Well, which mock draft did you see him at 11 or 12?
Walter or something. I forget. Walter draft. He does NFL and NBA, I think. Obviously, I think that's crazy. I think he should be ahead of guys of Drummond and Beal, but that's just my opinion.
On my draft board, he's the surefire number 2 pick. I don't even think it's close.
Wow. Okay, number 2. Okay, so if that's the case, please tell us more about that.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of times scouts and a lot of people who write these mock drafts, they place a lot of stock in how players perform in the NCAA tournament. And yeah, Barnes didn't really play so well in the tournament, but realistically, how many young guys will have 2 bad games in their career? So if you look at the overall body of work, I think Harrison Barnes has an excellent all-around skill set. I think he's an excellent spot-up shooter. I think NBA players need to have one skill that they're very elite at, on top of having athleticism, on top of having court awareness. And his spot-up shooting is definitely good enough for him to warrant major minutes in the NBA right away. Last summer, I believe he went to the Nike point guard camp, like to the Chris Paul point guard camp, just to work on his ball handling and his court awareness. And I think if you watch him throughout the course of the season, he seemed like a much smarter player and much more control of the ball than he was last year. And I just think he's one of those players that he just, at minimum, he's going to be a good starter. But I just see him that he has that special extra drive that when the team is down by 8 with 3 minutes left, that he's a guy who can just make buckets, just get buckets, help you get the win. And there's not that many guys like that, and I think when you find someone, I think you can't let him slip.
Okay, interesting stuff there. And now I said if we had time, and we have about 2 minutes left, AJ. So I wanted to ask you. You're very involved, obviously, in scouting in the European game. Should we look out for any European guys to make some noise in this draft? Or is there any guy that you really like that you think could be maybe late first round, early second round? I know there's a guy from France who a lot of people have been talking about. So let's get your thoughts on that before we let you go.
Well, the thing is last year's draft kind of depleted the main European stars like Nikola Mirotic and Jonas Valanciunas,
right?
Who both of those guys are going to be excellent players in the NBA. Valanciunas, I think, is going to be all-rookie first team in the coming year with the Raptors. He was excellent in Lithuania this season. He's very long. He has very good footwork. But when it comes to this year's draft, I actually don't think that there's any players who 100% warrant to be first-round picks. Evan Fournier of France, he most likely will be picked at the end of the first round, mostly as a Euro stash pick, because with the new salary cap rules, I think a lot of teams are going to be hesitant to give guaranteed contracts just to try to manage their money a little bit. So I think he's a player who could be picked at the end of the first round for a team that maybe just doesn't want to have a first-round pick on their salary this season, so they can keep him because he needs another 2-3 years in Europe before he seasons well enough to play in the league. There's another very interesting prospect, Furkan Aldemir,
okay,
big man who played in Turkey. But he also he's ready to come in. I think he could fit in a role like an Omar Ashik type of player, who will be picked somewhere in the second round.
Okay,
came at the center. This year's international draft crop isn't as strong as in recent years.
Okay, good stuff. And then last question on the American player. I know you're really big. We've had talks off air about you like Draymond Green. I want you to give us an American player who's going to get selected in the second round, who you think can be one of those guys in a few years will be an all-star, even though he's picked in the second round.
An all-star will be picked in the second round?
Yeah.
Well, John Jenkins from Vanderbilt, I've seen a lot of mock drafts that have him slipping in the second round. He's a guy who I think should be surefire lottery pick. He's about 6'4", plays very tough defense, and he's just a shot maker.
Right.
I think he's going to be an excellent NBA player.
Right, and that Vanderbilt team had a couple shot makers, last year, and then of course Esses down low, who had didn't have as good of a year as people thought, and that's kind of why Vanderbilt struggled at the start of the year, lost to teams like Indiana State, which was kind of weird. AJ, I wish we had longer, but we have Samaki Walker on the other line. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to have you on again closer to the draft, maybe a couple of days before, and then maybe a couple of days after to examine the draft with us. How does that sound?
We'll be in touch.
All right, AJ.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
Bye.
All right, AJ Mitnick, a scout for Rishon LeZion and breaking down the NBA draft list. We got in touch with Samaki Walker, which is awesome, and we are going to call him right now. A great career with the Lakers, played in Syria and Lebanon. That's the first thing I'm going to ask him because I love that. Most guys go to Europe, get the cash money, do all that kind of stuff, but he went to we need to check that out a little more, but I believe Lebanon, Syria, locations such as there, to play ball there. So we're going to talk to him about that, dialing him up right now. Moshe is going to have to leave the studio for a prior commitment pretty soon, so it's going to be me for the end of the show. But I'm going to ask Moshe ask a couple of questions to Samaki, and we're dialing him up. Hopefully we can get in touch with him now. We were in contact with him via text. He said he was available right now, so hopefully he picks up.
Hello.
Hi, am I speaking with Samaki Walker?
Speaking.
Samaki Walker, you're live on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to have you. We've had two great former LA players. We had Henry Lawrence, a former offensive lineman, Super Bowl winner earlier, and now we have Samaki Walker, former NBA champion. So very exciting to have you on. We appreciate your time. And you know what? My first question for you, I don't even want to talk about your NBA career. I want to ask you, because this is something that really impresses me. After your NBA career, you played in Syria, Lebanon, China, and South Korea. Can you tell our listeners why you went that path and why you didn't go to Europe? Because I really respect that about you, that you wanted to try out new cultures and go to places in the Middle East and China and Korea. And so could you please tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. It was personally a decision for mine. First of all, let me say that I'm really fortunate enough to have played 10 years professionally in the NBA, and NBA done has given me a platform to be able to sort of do other things and travel and see the world. And those countries I was definitely interested in visiting, and I thought that it would be a good opportunity to sort of get some culture and sort of educate myself on the different cultures and things that I was sort of ignorant about and had no clue in those particular countries. And I will say that it's the best decision I'm being able to travel in those countries you just named. I did a lot of personal growth, met a lot of wonderful people, and I felt like it was sort of my duty to be able to come back and sort of share the messages that I've acquired in those travels, especially pertaining in the Middle East, in Syria, where it's a lot of people are very ignorant to this region and the people over there, and which I've found to be one of the the safest places in the world.
Wow!
Despite of what people see on TV. And I actually did 2 years. I did 1 year in Syria, won a championship, and decided to go to Lebanon, and then actually ended up going back to Syria just because of the people and how they treated me, very well in their region. And I was very passionate about sort of this culture and learning for myself. And again, the basketball provided a platform to do that, and educated me a lot. So I'm very thankful in that regard.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say stuff like that, Samaki, about how you found Syria to be one of the safest places in the world, because we've had a lot of great players on our show here who play in Israel, and we had Marco Killingsworth on, one of my favorite players. He went to Indiana University, and I lived there for a while, and he said that when he first got hired, or when he first got a call from his agent to come play in Israel, he hung up on his agent and said, "No way, I'm not going to Israel. There's bombs there." And then when he finally came here, he's loved it. He's been here 4 years. He's played on 4 different teams. He doesn't want to go. He even went as far as telling me that he would retire here. So that's great to hear that you had enjoyed your time in the Middle East and Syria and in Lebanon. And I believe you played in South Korea. And basketball is something that's been growing there for the last few years. And you played in China. I really want to ask you about your time in China, because we had a segment earlier on with someone who was in China covering soccer, and I made a comment saying that 300 million people watched the NBA Finals last year. So what was it like playing for the Lions in China, and is it like people say with Yao Ming? Do people really love basketball in China as much as the media in America perceives it?
Yeah, absolutely, and not just China, but one thing I've realized traveling the world is that basketball is definitely for sure a global sport right now. And in China, when you have a billion people and you have as many people playing basketball as you have pretty much in the total population of the United States, which is pretty amazing. And they take their basketball serious, and the sports in general. I had a great time in China, experiencing the culture. Everything from the food to the people. The basketball there is played at a very high level. They're very skilled. That I found particularly, in Asia, their players may not be as athletic, but very highly skilled players. And for myself, coming from the NBA and actually playing, I actually learned a lot because it's a lot faster pace, and it's not easy at all. Like I said, it's very competitive, and you have to adjust to that style of play there because they do have their own style of play. And it is a physical sport, despite of what people may think that sometimes when we go over to Europe that it's not as physical. And it's definitely physical there when I played there, and learned a lot. Just the fast pace of the game and how they move, and they're very fundamental in their development. And I think it's showing globally around the world, a lot of these countries that weren't actually considered to be basketball countries at one time. They're taking it very seriously now, and I think that you'll see the competitive level in this year's Olympics, that a lot of these countries that weren't considered powerhouses before are actually becoming powerhouses. Yeah,
that's a great point. I know the Orion national team has gotten better. They have Ahmadi, who's playing for the Grizzlies, and we actually had the current Memphis Grizzlies general manager, Chris Wallace, and he told us he's one of the most talented players to come out of the Middle East region in a long time, and they wish they could give him more minutes, but Zach Randolph, I think, is playing in front of him, or a couple other guys playing in front of him, so it's hard to give him minutes. But
very talented guy. I've actually played against him.
Oh wow! Okay.
He at the time I saw him play there in his natural element, he reminded me of a Pau Gasol.
Wow.
Type of player, long. He could shoot with either hand. He was a highly skilled player. I actually played against him in a tournament in Dubai. And I was thinking to the back of my head at this time, this guy is definitely an NBA ball player. So I'm definitely not surprised with those comments that you just stated.
Interesting. And my co-host here wants to ask you one question about your time in Syria. So here he is.
How did winning the championship in Syria, I believe it was either your first or your second year in Syria, how did that compare to winning the NBA champion?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
You know what? Very interesting. And I would say, it ranked right up there for the simple fact, even though that the Syrian League is not as evolved as the NBA, to see the support there, and that's taken consideration. And Syria is very unique because you have a huge Muslim base, obviously, and you have a Christian base there, and they all coexist. And it was interesting to see the competitive level against, especially a team like Jihad, who was the Muslim team, and the team that I played, Al-Jalal, was a Christian team, and to see the competitive nature and the support that these people brought in a basketball, in a country where I didn't think basketball was really relevant. And, for me, it ranked right up there because of the energy. If you witness one of these games, man, you would just, you would be taken in awe of the support and the energy behind in which these people support this sport in a country in which, obviously, football, or what we know as soccer, is number one. And so I have to say, for me personally, to be recognized in another country and for people to embrace you the way that they do, it's simply amazing. And I personally rank it right up there, with the NBA championship personally.
Interesting. I mean, I know it's obviously very, very different. You can't argue that. But, so we started with we're kind of going to do things here in an interesting way. Hopefully you never had an interview like this. We're going to start with your time in the Middle East and Asia. Now we want to go back to your time in college, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay, so you spent your college career at Louisville, which has done a spectacular job recently under Rick Pitino. But I wanted to ask you what it was like. I believe you played under legendary coach Denny Crum, correct?
Correct.
Right, and so I wanted to ask what it was like playing under him. I mean, he was there since what 1971. He was a coach he was at Louisville for a long time. That's the point. And I wanted to know what it was like playing under a guy who a lot of people don't know about, which is kind of weird because since he's won a national championship in 1979, or he's won 2 national championships. Pardon me. So what was it like playing under him?
And not to mention, also, I'll add, he was an assistant under John Wooden,
right,
who was considered the great coach of all time. So Denny was a Wooden protege, and he carried some of those same principles, with his coaching style in the University of Louisville. Very thorough guy. I was fortunate enough to play for him, and he was very adamant about teaching fundamentals. One of the only few coaches at that time left who really emphasized that. Obviously, you having a new emerging type of player, and players now with new skill sets and new demands. But Denny was the guy, if you didn't use the backboard and things like that, it would drive him crazy. But he was very passionate about coaching, as it showed, and in his career and in his portfolio. But one thing that you didn't see on paper or you didn't see on TV was the behind the doors love that he showed to his players. You can walk into his office at any time and pretty much sit and talk to him about any subject. As young men, obviously basketball wasn't our entire lives. There were things that we have to deal with off the court issues and things like that. And then he was very good at sitting down with players and getting them to open up and sort of being, like a father figure, to the younger guys.
Right.
And, I think that was what's impressive about Denny, most of all.
Yeah, and I promise you, Samaki, I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but he is probably everyone in college basketball really knows his game, knows him, but as one of the top coaches, when you say Bob Knight, Krzyzewski, no one really puts his name up there, and he really, really should. I mean, he's been, I think, something like 6, 7 Final Fours, won 2 national championships, been to the Sweet 16 8 times, the Elite 8. I mean, it's just amazing what he accomplished, and I think sometimes people forget that he was there from, I think, 30 years or 29 years. So that's
absolutely
pretty amazing stuff there. And yeah, as you said, he was an assistant under Wooden from 63 to 71 under those great teams. So now that we covered your time in Asia and your time in college, we got to move on to your time in NBA. You were in the 1996. You were a first-round pick, 9th overall, to the Dallas Mavericks. And when you went to the Dallas Mavericks, it was just the beginning, I think, of Cuban. I think Cuban bought the team later when you were there, maybe not even when you were there. I wanted you to talk about what it was like playing on that team when they were kind of the new team, not a new team. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but they were a team that really struggled and didn't really know what it was like to win. So what was it like being drafted into that situation after being, at Louisville and always being in the tournament and competing for championships?
I will say that was one of the toughest times of my life. Never knew what really to expect it. Being introduced to, number one, the NBA at a professional level, and, coming into a situation where, obviously, like you said, coming from a winning organization, got a chance to play with the 3 J's at that time, and Jason Kidd, Jim Jackson, and Jamal Mashburn, who are obviously well known in this league. And to watch those guys play, was a pleasure, for a young guy coming in. And I got a chance to see what it took, to be a bona fide player, at this level, and the type of skill and professionalism, that it took. Unfortunately, it wasn't one of the elite and upper echelon teams at the time.
Right.
But for a young guy such as myself, it was definitely a great learning situation, for me to be able to come in and play behind those guys and watch those guys, perform night in and night out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you said, there was still some time. And, of course, then Mark Cuban bought the team. I'm trying to was Mark an owner of your team by the end of your time there, or did he buy it after you left? Or was it?
No, actually, Ross Perot Jr. was still there. And Mark Cuban, I think, while I was with the Spurs.
Okay, right. 99, I believe, 2000. So you were with the Spurs then. Absolutely. Moving on to going from the Mavericks to the Spurs and staying in Texas, getting to play for a very successful organization. At the time, little did you know they were about to win 4 championships in 11, 12 years. I want to talk a little bit about your time with the Spurs, and then really the Lakers is what I'm most excited to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, the Spurs was a great ride. I think it was the first time I learned how to be a professional athlete. Playing under Greg Popovich, and obviously behind 2 of the top 50 players in the NBA, and David Robinson and Tim Duncan.
Right.
Really taught me a lot and helped me elevate, my game, at that position, the post position. I was playing with 2 of the top players in the NBA, and again 2 of the top 50. So for me, I get back without all of the pressure of having to be an elite type of player, but to sit back and learn, which I needed, after coming out early, entering the draft early as a sophomore. There was still some rough edges that needed to be shaped up, and I think playing with those guys and those guys setting the bar at a phenomenal level, it gave me something to work for every day at practice, and I really enjoyed it. And Greg Popovich, I can't say enough about who he is as a coach and as a man. I think he epitomizes the great coaches because of his ability to recognize players' personalities and what they need and what he needs to get out of these guys. I think that's what him and Phil Jackson were actually 2 of the best coaches from that standpoint in the NBA.
Right, and Phil Jackson, you moved on to Lakers where you won an NBA championship and played with guys like Shaq and Kobe. You were a part of that team. You made that shot in Game 4 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals right at the end of halftime against the Kings. Everyone talks about that. Got to bring that up. So you're a very important part to this team that won. So I wanted to ask you, Syrian League champion in 2008, NBA champion in 2002. So we asked you about Syria. What was it like winning an NBA championship with such an amazing franchise, the Los Angeles Lakers?
Well, to elaborate on that shot a little bit more, too, what's interesting is that shot was highly controversial, obviously.
Right.
And one of the reasons they led to the instant replay.
Right. Right.
I think there was a shot by Baron Davis also that was controversial later that year in the playoffs. I think those 2 really gave question to what the NBA needed to improve, its ability to make those calls, especially in clutch moments. And so I think that's my little contribution. It's kind of hilarious to know that shot has such an impact.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Go ahead. Sorry.
The NBA championship at the Lakers, I honestly can't say enough. Playing with, again, 2 of the top 50 players in the NBA, Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. They probably would go down as the most dominant, one of the most dominant big men ever. Was a great opportunity. He had a locker room full of guys, Derek Fisher and Robert Horry and Rick Fox, and even all the way down to Mark Madsen. That was a special group of guys who worked together, who all had the same goal in mind, and playing for a guy like Phil, who again understood the psychology of what it took to motivate players. When you get guys Shaquille O'Neal and a Kobe Bryant. You know, sometimes it's those kind of superstars. It's hard to motivate and get them to stay focused on the bigger picture. And I think that Phil was good at really getting guys, the best out of guys that most teams, couldn't even, motivate. And that was what's impressive about Phil, is how he was able to do that. He was the first coach I played with that introduced meditation into our practices. He took it above and beyond just the typical basketball practices that, that we were accustomed to. We would meditate before we even got on the court, which sort of cleared our mind. And, it actually worked. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was so successful, over a period of time. The LA fans were incredible. In LA, there's a lot of pressure to win.
Right.
And it's for me, I found myself at times being a bit overwhelmed playing on that stage. You're talking about LA here. So it's definitely overwhelming when you look over and you see a Denzel Washington and a Jack Nicklaus and all these big name superstars who are at arm's reach, who are cheering you on, who come to the game on a regular basis. And, it's something to get adjusted to, coming from a city like San Antonio to a place like Los Angeles, in which, it's the Mecca, in Hollywood, to experience that on that level. It was amazing. And, again, I was fortunate enough to be part of those teams.
Right, and that game really helped with instant replay. A lot of people say that was the reason that I believe the following year that they started to institute instant replay. And also in that game, Robert Horry is one of the most clutch. I don't want to say players, but shooters of all time. Made an amazing shot in that game, a buzzer-beating three-pointer to win. I remember this is blast in the past for me. I remember this so well. So it was very interesting stuff talking about that. Then you went on to play for the Heat, Wizards, and Pacers. I'm a Pacer guy, so I wanted to ask you. I know you probably follow the NBA this year. What do you think the Pacers have been able to do in the last year or two to really become one of the better teams in the league or in the Eastern Conference?
And what I think, Pacers is a great organization, by the way, and I think what they've been able to do is go out and get the right guys, the right fit. They don't have a lot of superstars, but what they do is they have an idea of what they need, what they need to make a winning franchise. And I think it's just the beginning. And you got to credit the players, too. I mean, you look at a guy like Hibbert, was able to do with his body and transform his body and become one of the more elite centers that the NBA has now. Credit some to the players, but credit the organization for getting the right guys with the right personality fit that they feel would come in and put 100% effort in getting better. And I think if you look down the list of guys that they have on that team currently, it's a group of guys who do just that. They come in, they put their hard hat on, they work hard, and unselfish guys. So credit the organization for that. Credit the organization for keeping the coach. Obviously, when they could have went on ahead and got another coach, but they kept confidence in their assistant coach and made him the head coach, and it seems that it's the right fit. And I think the sky limit is they have a high ceiling to reach as far as their potential.
Absolutely, Frank. I lived in Indiana for a long time, so that's my team, Frank Vogel. We love him in Indiana. He did an amazing job as an intern last year. A lot of people forget the Pacers team almost beat a healthy Bulls team last year in the playoffs. They were up in the third quarter in every game, but they couldn't pull it together. And this year they played a lot better. Before we move on, we have about 4 minutes left, so I just wanted to ask you to get some predictions from you, Samaki, about what's going to happen tonight. Is LeBron going to pull it together and bring it back to Miami for Game 7?
Wow. It's pretty interesting. I thought that the Heat would be able to sort of use their athleticism to sort of get past the Celtics, but it's tough. The Celtics, they definitely feel now, that they can compete with Miami, and I'm not sure how healthy this Chris Bosh is going to be.
Right.
I think he's a key player, into the Miami Heat. People say, well, he's not big and physical, but what he does is he creates distance. When you have two players like LeBron James who can attack the basket, you don't necessarily need a typical power forward that's in the block. What you need is a guy who can step out and sort of stay out of the way and make plays as he's been doing all year long. And I think they missed that. I like Udonis Haslem and his approach that he brings to the game, the physical prowess, but sort of undersized, and that's not enough. They also need a guy who can hit the open shots, and Chris Bosh is very good from that block at creating and driving and moving the defense, and I think they're going to miss that, which is going to be very hard for Dwayne and LeBron because, I think Boston has figured that we're going to focus on these two guys and we're going to make everybody beat us. And they don't have the sort of cast that I've seen that's been consistent. Mario Chalmers has had his games where he really played big games and games where he sort of faded away. Shane Battier has games where he hit some key jumpers, but for the most part, games where he sort of wasn't there. And I'm trying to figure out what personality this Miami team, this Heat team, is going to bring. I do not believe that they can beat the Boston Celtics the way they did Anna. They sort of overwhelmed Indiana with LeBron and D-Wade, their athleticism. But Boston is a veteran team. They got good firepower. They got a good inside presence. And, they just got the heart. They've been there before, which I think is going to be tough for Miami to win on the road. They can do it, but they're going to have to play and do everything just about right in order for them to win this game.
Yeah, you sound like you could maybe replace one of those guys at ESPN or TNT as an analyst, Samaki.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to ask you. This is something that I think is really cool because it's a very interesting book, movie, story. You say that one of your favorite books is To Kill a Mockingbird. So how does a guy who's an NBA player, not to be all stereotypical here, but I guess I am. How does a guy who always has to be so tough and physical in the NBA court like such a book like that? It's very interesting to me.
I am an avid reader, and reading is my my favorite pastime, and I'm an educator, and reading is one of the things I think that sort of relaxes my mind and allows my imagination to sort of wander off into la la land at times, which we all need.
Right.
But that book, even as a kid, it captured me. I think it was just a powerful, really intense book. Had a lot of teaching points in there about, about people interaction. And there's so many just teaching points in that book, and it grasped me and captivated me as a youngster. And I've read it over several times, even as I've gotten older and became an adult, and it still touches me the same way. It's just one of those books that really stood out and was very well written. And I watched the movie as a follow-up, which was good as well. Obviously, the book was better.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, the book was better, but it's one of those stories that really just captivated me as a youngster.
Right. Gregory Peck, of course, played Atticus.
Absolutely.
Atticus. That was a great role. That was fun. We want to let you go with this, and we want to talk about some of the stuff that you've done for the community, and it's kind of your nonprofit. So you joined the nonprofit organization Star to Heart, yeah, and you also were part of Life Choices Foundation. So I always like to ask our former athletes, why do you think it's important to do this stuff and help the community out? I mean, why don't you just count your money and go on vacations all over the world? Why do you think it's important to do this?
Well, one thing that you understand is that we're all given platforms, and I think as we're given platforms, we have to be responsible.
Right.
One thing that we know and that my travels have taught me is that the world is definitely bigger than our own comfort zone and our own environment. And in order to make the world a better place, each generation has to get better. We have to evolve, and the only way to do that is to take the knowledge that we have now, to give back so the younger generation can have a vision and a path to be able to make life choices decisions. And for me, I think I'm very passionate about that. We all have been affected by somebody, even outside of our parents and things of that nature. So in order to raise a healthy, conscious generation, it takes an involvement of a lot of entities, and I just want to be a small chipping stone to be a part of a bigger organization. So it was an honor and a pleasure to have a platform to be able to play in such a prestigious league like the NBA and wonderful countries, in Syria, Lebanon, China, Korea, and for those people to embrace me and give back to me and allow me to participate in those countries. So I want to share the knowledge that I have and give back. And also, while we're talking, I know you got the hookup over in Israel, so I would love to get some of that Dead Sea product.
I think we could figure that out, Samak. I think we could figure that out.
The best products in the world, by the way. There's Dead Sea products. I got all the socks and all the products. I have a friend from Israel, and she's very gracious to be able to, when she goes back, she travels and brings those products. And I've been hooked for now at least 10 years.
Wow.
So, yeah,
interesting.
Absolutely.
Well, Samaki, I lied and said that was the last question. I want to ask you, you've played in so many places, Russia, Syria. Is your career over? What's next for Samaki Walker? What do you have planned for the upcoming fall after the summer?
I took last year off to sort of work on some developing things I have going on. Obviously, life in basketball comes to an end, and mine is reaching that point. At the present time, I'm still getting phone calls about playing basketball abroad, and just trying to see if I can visit some other countries. I'm going to sit back and weigh my options.
Okay.
I'm still working out, and want to see how things manifest. So hopefully, the future is visit a few more countries and beginning to sort of keep building friendships and see how it goes.
Well, Samaki, we'd love to have you in Israel. We have a pretty strong league. I can be an advocate for our league and say we have a very, very good league. So maybe, who knows, maybe you'll end up here. You never know.
Absolutely, the best. I think you guys have been winning a lot of these championships lately, so my hat's off, and it would be a pleasure just to visit the country in general.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Samaki, unfortunately, we have to go and end our show, but we're very glad we could connect with you and have you on on our show. And we'd love to have you on the future next year and see what's going on with you then. How does that sound?
Absolutely. It would be a pleasure.
All right, Samaki, have a great day and enjoy your time with your family and being back in the States.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That was Samaki Walker. Very interesting. I love when, you get the stereotype that all these NBA players don't, they just like NBA. And it's always interesting to see the other side of them, to talk to them about more than sports, life and all the things they like to get involved in. I loved his answer when I asked him about community and why you don't just count your money. Why do you think it's important to do that? And what do you know? This has been I think we broke a Lewis Live record. This is our third 3-hour show. We had a 3-hour show Tuesday. We had a 3-hour show yesterday. And we had a 3-hour show today. So 9 hours of radio. It was a pleasure for me to be on with you guys, for our listeners out there. Next week we have a lot of great guests on. Ari Lewis and Moshe will be doing Wednesday and Thursday. I will not be in the studio. But Monday and Tuesday we'll be having shows. They'll be great shows, soccer, basketball, football. And by then we might have NBA Finals set up. I got to say, go Heat, go LeBron tonight. But at the same time, I am kind of rooting for the Celtics. So it's kind of a mixed emotions thing for me. I'm excited for both teams. If the Celtics can do it, that'd be great. If LeBron can pull it off and bring it back to Miami, that'd also be great. I'm not a LeBron hater. I know I get hate for not being a LeBron hater, but that's the way it is for me. I think he's the best player in the NBA by far. I've said that a lot on our show. But that's it. We had a great show. I want to thank everyone who's been on the show, and that's going to be fun to do since we started off 3 hours ago at 5 o'clock local time. And let's start off. At 5 o'clock, we had Frank Trigg, who is an MMA expert and is the MMA expert for ESPN Radio. That was great. At 5:30, we had a very interesting conversation with Goal.com's editor, Zach Lee Rigg, which was really, really interesting because he was in Malaysia, China, and covering a lot of those leagues for Goal.com. Then at 11 and 6 p.m. local time, we had Avi Creditor, who is a contributor to Sports Illustrated for soccer and a lot of other great magazines and newspapers. So he's a great writer, and he spent a year abroad in Israel, just throwing it out there. At 11:30, we had an amazing talk with Henry Lawrence, former Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion with the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders. And then at about 12:05, 12:07, 7 o'clock local time, we had A.J. Mitnick from, who is a scout for Richon Latillon last year. And we talked about the NBA draft. Very, very smart guy. I've talked to him a lot off air about players, scouting, and what he thinks of this player and that player. So if anyone out there is listening to management, this guy's a genius. So give him a call if you want some advice. And then we finished off the show with Samaki, which is a really very touching interview to hear about his experiences in I'm going to read it again for you guys. Played in Russia, Syria, Lebanon, China, South Korea, and then Syria again. So very, very, very interesting player. He's contributed. He's won an NBA championship, and he wasn't one of those guys that was just on the bench. He averaged 9 points, 8 rebounds at one point in his career. So this guy was a true player in the NBA, and we were very honored to have him on, and we're hoping to have him on again next week. Just to read some guests real quick. I know we're past our time, but I just want to let people know. We're going to have the play-by-play guy from the Los Angeles Galaxy. We are going to have Mark Brown, Dave Cohen, who does play-by-play for Georgia State, wrote an amazing book about Jewish baseball players. We're going to talk to him about that. We're going to have Leonard Bernstein from the Washington Post, Dan Schwartzman from the ESPN Radio New York, Arnie Spainer, who's in Buffalo right now. Then we're going to have Jason Blesnick, our good friend, who talks to us about the draft, Mitch Shapiro. We're going to have also Diana Redman, a good friend of Israel Sports Radio, women's national soccer team. And then we're going to end the show on Thursday with Cub Bunin from Denver, also a good friend, and Mark Sibber from Fox Sports, and Joe Kotach, who is also an NBA insider. So please stay with us. It's going to be a good week. And then the week after that is very exciting. We won't tell you about that yet. We'll tell you when you listen next week. So this is me saying goodnight from Jerusalem. The stars are out. The sun is down, and we hope if you're in America, you have a great day, and if you're in Israel, have a great night.